Tom Quee and Sam Wiles present Down in the Hole, a Tom Waits podcast which explores and critiques, episode by episode, every album of the American artist. To find out more information about the show and the man himself, visit TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com. Hello everyone, and welcome back once again to Down in the Hole. We are a Tom Waits podcast, and Sam, this is probably the most excited I've been for an episode. I mean, I don't know about you.
I'm scared. You know, you can't see this, but I'm physically shaking right now. This is a big album. This is the prototypical best Tom Waits album. You know, if you ask broadly across the fans, you're going to get a lot of small change in there. Yeah, you might even get a few Bone Machines and obviously Rain Dogs, but this is the one that will challenge Rain Dogs. This is the country Rain Dogs, the latter phase Rain Dogs. He's a bit more mature now. It could be better.
Every flavour, every aspect of Tom is covered in this incredible.
We've got guitar, we've got piano, we've got mad drumming, we've got soft, we've got hard,
turntablists.
Yes.
You know, and the incorporation of all the literary and just brilliant writing that has always been Tom's trademark and is just exacerbated by Kathleen. But before that incredibly exciting album, we have a little bit of boring admin. Just to drift through as ever.
It's never
boring, but you know, I mean, maybe people not listening, but hopefully you're interested. And we put out a lot of stuff there for you. So the first thing I want to mention is our blog, TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com, as you heard in the intro. Basically, we host the episodes there, but more pertinently, we write articles there. Me and Sam like to just not only talk about Tom Waits a lot, but write about him as well. There's so much to cover. I think Simon Sharma, the great art critic, did a brilliant series in The Guardian a few years ago where it's just basically kind of famous people talk about their favourite musicians and write an essay about them. It's a very kind of broadsheet thing to do. It's very easy and cheap to make. But anyway,
so like a more detailed Desert Island.
Yeah, exactly. And Simon Sharma, I'll have to find the article. I'll bring it up on the next pod. But basically, he compares Waits to Shakespeare in the breadth of his references, and it's a little bit of a sort of, you know, it's a bit of hyperbole on purpose, but it's fitting, you know. And
Waits is better.
Yeah, he's done more, hasn't he? You know, he's on YouTube, so. But yeah, so Sam wrote a brilliant article that I just want to draw your attention to. It's about Tom Waits in the ocean. And basically, Sam does a kind of like, period by period, kind of the 70s to 80s, 80s, 90s, etc., 90s to now, just talking about the allusions to the nautical within Waits. And it's a really good article, so you definitely check that out.
Well, it's weird though, isn't it? Because if you were to ask people what are Tom Waits' like archetypes, like you've obviously covered them brilliantly in your last 3 articles, you know, covering like crows and barns, and all those sorts of things. You wouldn't think the ocean, but when you go back, you like, and if you just note it down every time, oh yeah, he does start singing about this a lot, especially after he meets Kathleen. It's a very evocative image, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, from Melville to Cormac McCarthy to Hemingway to Emily Dickinson to any number of musical artists as well, and pirates. It is just a constant kind of point of reference. Other points of reference for us include our Twitter, at TomWaitsPodcast. We just passed 2,000 followers, which isn't much to your Kardashians and Swifts, but it's pretty cool, you know, to have
That's twice we've mentioned Taylor Swift on this podcast.
Well, there you go. So yeah, check us out on there at Tom Waits Podcast, all one word. Also the YouTube as well, which is that, just search Tom Waits Podcast on YouTube. We upload these episodes. A lot of people listen on YouTube, which I understand I listen to a lot of my podcasts on YouTube as well. And we also do bonus episodes where we just kind of do like little lists. So there's 2 so far. There's one where we're covering Tom Waits, effectively his first 10 years in his asylum years, and doing our personal top 5 favourites from those. Then we do the same for the next era of his career, and we are going to do another one very soon, because just after Mule Variations came out, probably on part of the promo tour, I'm not sure what the release dates were, but Tom took...
It was 99.
It was 99, yeah, and Tom took part in VH1 Storytellers, which is a brilliant series in of itself. If anyone's watched any of the episodes, you know, Alice in Chains is a really, really good one. Oh, that's unplugged, but it's the same kind of idea, you know, that kind of live stuff. Like, yeah, so Tom did a incredible storyteller performance, which we're going to do on the next one, so just check us out on YouTube. But before we get into our emails, there's something quite exciting that's happened through the show, really. And last episode, we touched on the Black Rider, Sam. We touched on Tom's weird lawsuit with Frito-Lay, with Doritos. They basically appropriated his Step Right Up kind of, kind of Jacko kind of way of describing things, delivery. And
we really kind of had to go on the word of the source material, really. Like, there was no
there was none. There was a court case. Tom won millions. You know, it was pretty incredible. But I'm really happy to say, I won't name the guy who shall be unnamed, our deep throat source, as it were. But we have managed, through our email, through TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com, please get in contact, anything. You don't have to send something as incredibly invaluable as this. But someone sent us the actual Doritos commercial. So we thought, just before we get into our emails, just before we get into Mule Variations, we should play it for you. So in case you were wondering from our previous episode, here's what the commercial actually sounds like.
There's a new tortilla chip called Salsa Rio Doritos. It's buffo, bafo, bravo, gung-ho, tally-ho, but never mellow.
Tickle your taste from the tangy tomatoes, flavor peppers, oodles of onions, and sassy spices. A new Salsa Rio Doritos.
Now that tongue tickler's quite a stickler. It's confounding, resigning, perplexing, complexing, involuted, convoluted, but it sure feels good. All right.
Tickle your taste from the tangy tomatoes, flavor peppers, oodles of onions, and sassy spices. A new Salsa Rio Doritos.
Yeah, tickle your taste. You try 'em, buy 'em, get 'em, got 'em. Everybody go up and go to Rio. Salsa Rio, everybody.
Your taste from the tangy tomatoes, flavor peppers, oodles of onions, and sassy spices. A new Salsa Rio Doritos.
Yeah, try 'em, buy 'em, get 'em, got 'em. Everybody go. You don't say so and so and so and so it goes. Salsa Rio flavored Doritos, brand tortilla chips. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that is pathetic. That is such how did they think they were going to get away with that? That is so blatant.
Yeah.
They're not even trying, are they?
No, I agree. Listening back, it kind of hits you how much of a rip-off it actually is, and you can kind of imagine Tom getting annoyed with it. Like when you
Angry,
when you read it on paper, you kind of you kind of imagine what it'd be like, but you know what I mean. It doesn't seem that offensive, but that is. It's so garish, but anyway.
I'd like to think that the people who did that were fans of Waits, because they do it well.
Yeah. It's definitely not kind of too hackneyed, but it's kind of hackneyed in a certain sense. So we'll move on to the emails quickly. Our first email is from Jared Carney.
No relation to Ralph Carney.
No, unfortunately not. Different spelling, Carnie, unfortunately. But
is it?
Yeah, Jared begins saying, "Hey Sam and Tom, first of all I just want to say how much I enjoy the podcast. I really enjoy all the effort you guys put into it. Sometimes when a new episode downloads and I see the running time, it makes me laugh to think about how much ground there is that you've got to cover." You're right, Jared, you're right. Including this one, just for one album at a time. My girlfriend, he continues, took the piss out of me for immediately turning off the TV so I could watch that video of Kathleen and Tom on that Irish show you tweeted a while back. So yeah, check out that. Incredible. I mean, me and Sam were so tantalised but finally not only just hearing Kathleen but seeing her during these Swordfish years as well, seeing their love blossom, and it's an incredible clip. You can find it on YouTube now. It's been kind of shared a lot. It's not just on the RTE website. You don't have to download Real Player. You can get it wherever you want, So he spoke about the tweet and he said, "It was satisfying when I got to play her the clip of you guys being all giddy about it, finding it and saying, 'See, it's not just me. There's a whole gang of us desperate Tom Waits lunatics.' A few days later, she texted from a coffee shop saying, 'I'm in a coffee shop and it's playing a really pretty song.' Then a few minutes later, I got another text from her saying, 'I've just realised it's Tom Waits. I hate you.' So I think we can consider that a victory for Tom Waits fans everywhere. She'll be one of us in no time." And Jared continued the email, basically asking me and Sam to answer some questions for his blog. He interviews people on his blog about podcasts and creators. It's really cool, by the way. It's Jared, Jareda Carney, as we've said before, CARNIE.com, JaredACarney.com. And you can find out about it. Where basically just interviews people that he kind of enjoys. So it was really nice for him to get in contact with us and ask those questions, and we'll let you know when they're on there. But in return for the questions that he sent, I asked a little bargaining, very Waitsy, and if he could just tell us how he got into Waits, I suppose, which is something me and Sam are always interested in. So Jared continued about a week later. He said, quote, "Right, first time I heard Waits, I've not got a set memory specifically, so I've got sort of a rough sketch in my mind of how I got into him. I reckon the first time I heard Waits would have been on a soundtrack to The Wire, which is pretty interesting because obviously very, very good friends of ours who've since concluded the show. I think we mentioned him before, but
very sad.
Very sad. The inspiration for Down in Hole, Alex Cottrell and Toby Huntington, two good friends of ours as well. Went to uni with the guys, brilliant guys, and they did a podcast on The Wire called Caught on the Wire. Definitely watch it. We've mentioned it several times on here before, but definitely mention it anyway. He continues, "I think they didn't use the Waits original until season 2, so at the time it was just another cool version of the theme to my new favourite TV show. If I remember rightly, around that time I was so obsessed with The Wire I didn't have time to be interested in anything else, so I didn't actually research Tom Waits any further. I think the first time I really decided to give Tom Waits a chance was after watching the Bukowski documentary, which I think is now on Netflix, where Tom gave a couple of great readings of Bukowski poems. I haven't actually seen that. I have to check that out. I was on a real Bukowski kick at the time, and the fact that I knew this guy had written the music to The Wire, my favourite show, and read Bukowski, my favourite writer at the time, was enough to convince me there'd be something there for me to get my teeth into, which is very true, really. We mentioned that before, Tom Waits is my favourite artist, I'm sure yours, Sam, and The Wire is our favourite show, but they kind of just came together, like on other sides of the spectrum. I wasn't into both at the same time. It's a very very weird thing. So,
if the Beatles did the theme to Two Broke Girls, it may just top that.
Yes,
But
yes.
I do also like the fact that we're a gang as well. I do like that.
Yeah. Jared continues. I think I started with the Heart of Saturday Night and Rain Dogs at the same time. I loved some of Heart of Saturday Nights right away. I'd read a lot of Kerouac, so it clicked with that part of my brain. Some of Rain Dogs scared me though. I remember playing Clap Hands for the first time in my girlfriend's car when we were lost, driving through the woods in the English countryside somewhere at about 2 a.m. I don't think we reached the end of the song. It was too creepy for that situation. I stuck with Heart of Saturday Night for a week or two though, and the more I got into it, the more, strangely, Rain Dogs made sense to me, which is interesting. I was kind of fascinated by the fact that the core of both these albums were great classic songs, yet they were dressed up and affected in completely different ways. I think discovering Tom Waits was a real turning point in my being a fan of art in general. Before that, I loved things that were direct and passionate, Bukowski, Hicks, The Clash, etc. It was once I started moved more by certain Waits songs that so obviously weren't about him that I started to realise I had to learn to appreciate the craft that goes into creating things. It's not always about screaming what you think as simply and directly as you can. Don't get me wrong, I still love punk, and Tom mentions punk quite a few in the interviews we're going to get into. I still love the beats, I still love directness and sincerity, but they're not the only qualities I look for anymore. Now I can get the same thrill from discovering someone who is truly adventurous in their creativity too. And he apologises how long the email got, but no, that was brilliant, Jared. People getting in contact with us is always brilliant, so thank you so much. And again, check out Jared's website, jaredacarney.com, and we'll get the questions to you as soon as they come on, Sam. And then we just have one more email. This is from someone who's been in contact before, Jeff Smith. You may remember Jeff. He was the guy who, in our early episodes, we always do a film segment in the show, but in our early episodes we didn't have a name for the show, did we? We mentioned this before. And Jeff was listening about a few months back, so he was probably about 4 episodes behind wherever we were at the time, and I think he got in contact around Swordfish maybe, so he would have been kind of earlier days. And he basically said, you should call your podcast Real Gone.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we had come up with Real Gone as a title, so that was just a brilliant bit of serendipity there, but basically Jeff ended his first email saying that he couldn't wait for the Mule Variations episode. It was the first album that he really got into and really loved of Waits, like a lot of people, like me maybe as well. I don't know about yourself, Sam, but so we kind of emailed back and forth, and then I just asked him, I was like, what's your thought on Mule Variations, and he sent us this great email, and he said, to start off on a slightly negative note, and I hate speaking ill of Waits' work, not that they ever have too much need to. At 71 minutes, I think the Mule Variations is a little long. I love it when you can look at an album and say it's consistently brilliant and cohesive throughout, a perfect album. As examples, I'm thinking of some of my favourites: The Queen is Dead, Siamese Dream, Ramones, Is This It, Weezer's Blue Album. And although Mule Variation sits aside them as one of my all-time favourites, I can't quite say it's one of those perfect records. I would lose Black Market Baby, Eyeball Kid, and Filipino Box Spring Hog. I would lose songs as well, and we'll get into that later. I don't want to do any spoilers. I'm sure you don't either, Sam, but not those three.
Barney mentioned all 3 of those as well, didn't he? I mean, 9 songs didn't make the cut.
Yeah, they didn't. And Jeff says that his reasoning for that is tonally. He thinks that they don't sit quite right on the album quality-wise. Well, I don't think necessarily they're bad songs. I do think he was doing that out there style a bit better during the Island years. I might also cut a couple of minutes from Behind the Mule. I love that tune, but don't need all 7 minutes of it. I feel you. He says if you were to make these amendments on Mule Variations, that would cut the album down to a much tighter 55 minutes and tonally keep it a lot more consistent. I think then you could confidently categorise it alongside those perfect albums, and it really would be, because to me those remaining 55 minutes are pretty much faultless. Some of his records don't have the strongest opening track, but Big in Japan definitely bucks the trend. The way that distorted boom boom clang gently gives way to that squalling bluesy guitar line is really special. The moment it breaks down midway so Tom can deliver to you that "Ayo," they love the way I do it line, kills me every time. It's a thrilling opener, and you're in for a treat. And Jeff continues in this, and he concludes with his standout track being definitely one of my favourites as well. We'll get to it, but it's probably going to surprise no one. Take It With Me. The melody, Jeff says, it's such a wonderful sentiment, so expertly, powerfully delivered. I think it's just astonishing. I think it sums up why Tom's songs in general connect so strongly with me. His lyrics are outstanding, but the playing and his voice aren't perfect. They're raw and human, and so it seems so much more real and personal than any polished instrumental performance and professional auto-tuned vocal ever could be. Songs like this sound like an old friend in a bar at closing time leaning in and opening his heart up to you. It's incredibly intimate and quite overwhelming. The album is still a great listen after all these years. The sound of a master singer-songwriter, confident and comfortable in his own skin and firing on all cylinders. These songs are in my bones, which is beautiful and absolutely terrific writing there, Jeff. A joy to read. Thanks so much for getting in contact as well. But we'll start with Mule, Sam. Where does this start for you?
Well, Mule Variations for me. I remember we spoke about this before. You kind of got me into Tom Waits. This was the first album I kind of found on my own, as it were. when you just torrent like. And I remember just seeing the title Mule Variations.
Yeah, it's a
Bam,
great
what
title,
the hell
yeah.
is this? This sounds awesome. The album cover looks great. I'm looking at my vinyl now that we had tweeted. It was the first Tom Waits
Amazing cover
vinyl
as well,
I ever
yeah.
bought. Yeah, we keep mentioning to forget the covers, but the cover for this one is actually so just. It is the album. He's just there in a field. Wow. Could it be any more, symbolic of the entire experience? I do like as well how the sort of the photography makes it look like he's got like a really thin,
Yeah, he
lame
looks like he's
arm.
almost shouldering weight, but he's also lifeless like a scarecrow. It's a very doubly image.
And obviously, the phrase mule is referring to himself as Mule Patterson. Actually, Mule Patterson doesn't actually feature on this album.
I know he played drums on Bone Machine, didn't he? But he doesn't
and then
feature on this one.
he comes back again on Blood Money, I believe. But yeah, I've said before, this is an album. I can be both dreading and itching to review because it is just such a landmark, isn't it? You can't like Tom Waits and not know this album inside out. Everyone knows all the songs on this album inside out. A funny thing, our resident artist Danny O'Gorman mentioned to me, who actually just designed a really dope thumbnail for my own solo podcast, which we mentioned on our.
What is that podcast, Sam? What is that podcast?
I go into a bit more detail on it on our last bonus episode where we talk about Tom's Island.
Please.
Oh god. Well, I'm doing my own podcast called Only Fools and Podcasts. It's I do like the title. It's a little corny, but basically I'm just going through episode by episode of England's most, probably the world's most loved sitcom, which is Only Fools and Horses.
Up there, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go through every episode talking about the writing, the history, even just things like the set design, costume.
Now, Mule Variations.
I think Tom Waits does have a cameo in the third season.
Del Boy and Tom Waits, they're not kind of, two
they,
distant cousins.
They couldn't exist in the same room, could they? Oh, but yeah, Danny, our resident artist, mentioned that this is kind of like supposedly the middle of Tom's so-called apocalyptic trilogy, which is something that I'd never heard about, and I can't find any sources on it. But apparently, Bone Machine is the beginning of the apocalypse. Mule Variations, the album we're going to be reviewing today, is meant to be about people living in some sort of apocalypse, and then Real Gone, which we'll be reviewing in 6 weeks,
yes,
is post-apocalypse. And I kind of get where that theory may come from. But it's really not. It's not too apocalyptic. Like there are bits of Real Gone and Bone Machine in this, but they're very thin veins. Like this really does kind of stand out as just being the culmination of everything Tom Waits has ever been doing. Like he's dropped a lot of piano up until this point, and he brings it back like he never left.
Yeah, the record is almost fitting a Bone Machine in a sense. It is all stripped down. Like there's very few percussion. Just the kind of the elements, and there's not much death really either. I would argue there's one song that explicitly deals with death. There's almost.
But that's more mournful, isn't it?
Yeah, there's almost there's a quartet of religious songs at the tail end of the album as well. Heavily religious songs. So there are these interesting moments and clusters. But to say that it's part of the Apocalypse trilogy is. I don't know, it feels more satisfactory in the beginning and the end. Like the Real Gone and Bone Machine, I can see that leap. Mule as being the purgatory between. I don't know, perhaps. But so by the time they started on this record, obviously a lot of the songs were written prior, and we'll touch on that. But the songs, basically, work began in early June. 25 songs were ready for the recording, 9 of which didn't make the cut, some of which turned up on Orphans, including
some very, very mediocre songs.
Fish in the Jailhouse, which I could throw out. Not a fan of 219. I don't really like either.
Buzz Fletcher-John's okay.
They're all okay songs, aren't they? Yeah, those 3 are the ones that we know about that weren't on Mule of the 9. And
I'm glad Tom was able to be a bit of a Bones Howard to himself here and just objectively look at these songs and be like, it's not Mule Variation.
There is some. Have you heard that Japanese extra track, that Big Face Money?
But I saw it on the Wikipedia this morning, and I'm quite annoyed that I haven't listened to it.
Yeah, it's 40 seconds. It's actually pretty good. It reminds me a lot of Queens of the Stone Age. It's got like heavy, lumbering desert riffs, but it's literally only 40 seconds. It sounds like a snatch of a song, and it's Tom and his son, and his son's on the drums, and it's just basically Tom being like, "You want the big face money?" Like it's a proper
It's so weird that that's someone who an artist who's been so angry that people have been commercializing his songs, and like his manager's been selling some of his old tracks to Screaming Jay Hawkins, for Tom to indulge Anti Records, which we'll get onto obviously in a moment, a partner record company of Epitaph Records. But it's weird that Tom would do the whole Australian release, the Japanese release thing.
I think it's out of his hands, really. It just,
Do you reckon it's just like they use songs that didn't make the cut, and it's just like, well, it ain't going to go on Orphan, so let's just chuck it on
it's probably part of the contract. I mean,
Japanese.
but you find that so many bands have Japanese editions with extra songs. Why does Japan always get those editions, or New Zealand or Australia? It's always
apparently it's Japan. Obviously, a country that we're going to get onto very, very
Yes,
shortly.
that's
But
true.
apparently it's Japan because records are so expensive there. Apparently, they're like disproportionately expensive, so they have to give them a reason not to just import them in from America.
Okay, that makes sense. Yeah. So basically, during this June time, during this kind of songwriting time, Kathleen and Tom moved their Fisher upright piano, the same one as Bone Machine, into the same room as Bone Machine, or the same area as Bone Machine, Priory Sun, a storage room. And they used the studio's own engineers there, Oz Fritz and Jackie King. I couldn't find much on Oz Fritz, but Jackie King is still a giant of the production game. Like, his most famous record that he produced, which mostly recently won a Grammy, was James Bay's Chaos and the Calm. I'm not really a fan of James Bay, but he's this ginormous, bland pop singer at the moment. And, and this is a guy, Jackie King, who's been working pretty much since Waits. It wasn't necessarily Waits that gave him his break, but Waits was his early career. The Mule was very early on, and now he's doing big releases. He recently did Only by the Night by Kings of Leon, which in my memory is one of the biggest rock albums in a decade. Like, I'm not saying it's that great, but it was Sex on Fire and You Somebody and all those other songs like, Manhattan and Notion. They were huge. That was a huge... It was to the Skin soundtrack as well. So, there is a level of kind of professionalism and acclaim here behind the desk, which you can feel, but it never kind of takes over things. And Tom was in an interview, actually, with Rip Rents. This is for performing...
It's a very good interview. It
is a great interview.
Oh my God, he covers so much in this interview.
Yeah.
Except for the Barney Hoskins 1999 Mojo interview, which is probably the best one ever. He asks everything you would want someone to ask Tom Waits.
He does. It's a very knowledgeable one. It's basically, this is we'll touch on this shortly, but basically Tom moved to a different record label. But basically Rip asks him, this is in July 99, so kind of prior to the album's release, you're processing in the studio, and Waits says, we go through the usual Sturm and Drang about it in the studio. Is this Stern? Is this dead? Certain songs we record 5 different ways and then not even use them on the record. They didn't even make the cut. We ended up having to take 9 songs off the record. We had 25 songs. We had enough for 2 records. I think a little too much material to digest. I don't know what will happen with those songs. Probably come out soon in one form or another. And then Rip asks, your writing in recent years is more succinct. You evoke more with less. Just these lines at random from different songs on Mule Variations. And he says, tend your ear to the wisdom post. Found an old dog, it seems to like me. I miss your broken china voice. Strangers are singing on the lawn. And then Waits says, well, I guess those are things you try and collect and use later. Sometimes they aren't even attached to anything at all. Then you start stitching them all together, Lines come to you all the time. People say them every day, but they're always in the context of something else. So we all say things that are fascinating without knowing it. It's like looking for interesting shapes of stones, like picking stuff off the ground. Which is, again, he replies in another brilliantly broken lyrical way to that amazing question. And similar to Bone Machine in the kind of aesthetic is that raw... lo-fi ambience, and Waits was talking about the studio with Barney, actually, and he said that most blues people like texture on a record and the grit that there comes through the time and limitation at that particular time becoming part of the charm of the record. And there is that in Mule Variations, isn't there? There is that kind of, without
especially
being kind
on
of cliched, it's there.
Black Market Baby's probably the prime example of
Oh
that,
man, yeah.
He does the whole Innocent When Your Dream 74 thing.
Yeah.
Just you don't really have much vinyl, do you? Like, you
not really, no. Yeah.
But when you listen to Mule Variations on vinyl and then Black Market Baby starts playing, the crackle is so satisfying, and just like just before Big in Japan starts, it does add another layer when you just get that little before it starts. Oh, it's perfect. It's a perfect opening. The songwriting on this album is, a lot of people have compared it to Rain Dogs in just its pure consistency, and we've said before, Rain Dogs isn't a perfect album. Maybe there really isn't just such a thing as a perfect album, but he was touching on something in the last album, Bone Machine, something called the Cerebral.
Yeah.
And in an interview with LA Weekly, I think all of these sources that we're talking about come from 1999, so we probably won't need to explicitly state that again.
Yeah.
But Tom talks about Kathleen coming up with the cerural, which I was like, oh, okay, like wow, this woman really is. She's almost a driving force in this writing. He goes on to say, Kathleen and I came up with the idea of doing music that's cerural. It's surreal and rural. It's cerural. He actually sings that bit. Everybody's doing it. Cerural. She starts. She'll start to kind of talk in tongues, and I take it all down. She goes places I can't get to those places. She's too pragmatic. She's the ergot of the family. I'm the mule. I write mostly from the world, the news, what I really see from the counter or hear. She's more impressionistic. She dreams like Hieronymus Bosch. She's been in a lot of things. She drove a truck for a while, had her own pilot's license, worked as a soda jerk, ran a big hotel in Miami. She was going to be a nun when I met her. She was in the corner of a nun or ruin. So together, you wash, I'll dry, it works. She's exposed me to all kinds of things I'd never listened to. It's kind of like trying on hats. Is that me? You kind of have to let it all down and not worry about what's hip and what's cool, which I don't think Tom's ever done. I guess you're trying to find some music that's my music. It's like home cooking, Of course I'm making something just for me. I'm not very picky. I might just pour some sugar in my ear, suck on a piece of dirt in my mouth, and light my hair on fire. I'm fine with that.
No, that's great, and like one of the things you touch on there, which is you feel a lot in Mule, is Kathleen. And there's a great quote by Stephen Hodges, who I don't know if you recall, but he basically drummed on Swordfish and Rain Dogs, and he comes back for this album for two songs.
It's like he's come back to a different Tom, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And he said like about Kathleen, because obviously he kind of worked with Kathleen in the early days, but he's seeing it kind of effectively like 15 years later or so since he first got there. And he says, quote, "She was usually there. They sang stuff together, and she commented on his phrasing, helped with enunciations. They definitely worked together at sculpting this thing, and they were really honest about how much they needed each other. It's a fucking beautiful thing they have. Who wouldn't think it's pretty cool that these guys can relate stuff and work together? Tom is a Renaissance man of a sort. To be so powerful without being macho is very cool." And Kathleen is felt throughout this, especially in the lyrics. I think Mule Variations is one of my favourite just lyrical albums that Tom put out as well. There are so many affecting phrases.
There are only 4 songs that she's not on, which is A House Where Nobody Lives, Pony, What's He Building, and Filipino Box Spring Hog.
Yeah.
And all of those do feel like definite like snippets of Tom's past. You can't like deny that they are just Tom Waits' memories on vinyl. And I'm not saying Kathleen has to be in every single song. It's just, she does add a certain structure to his work that does allow songs to kind of transcend a little. And it's weird that these songs do still feel kind of perfect, and unless I was told that Kathleen didn't write them, I'd just assume that she had.
I think
except for maybe What's He Building? Like, I don't think she's ever really been a part of his spoken word stuff.
No, that is a personal sort of reaching back. Yeah, but I mean, Tom, his essence, as we've established throughout these episodes, is a collaborator, and he relies on people to bring certain elements out of songs. And there are moments in songs. I'm thinking specifically of like Chocolate Jesus and Filipino Box Spring Hog, where Tom is like kind of not saved. The song, those are great songs, but there's like just incredible instrumentational performances, especially from this guy Charlie Musselwhite, who plays blues harp on the record. Doesn't play on every song. John Hammond
there's a lot of blues harp on this.
But it sounds wonderful, doesn't it? It sounds so much more mournful than a harmonica. But it has that perfect kind of hobo trash can, caught a B&O down the South Line kind of thing, And Tom, throughout the record, along with Charles Musselwhite, he's bringing in loads of people from the fold. He's kind of picked and chooses musicians, but up to this point, everyone kind of wants to work with him again, so he can kind of just choose who he wants. So not only is Mark Ribot back on guitar, but Joe Gore is on a lot of the guitar as well, who's featured on Tom since Night on Earth. Smokey Ormel, who
Larry Taylor.
Smokey Ormel, Tom had discovered him through Beck's band, because he loved Beck, and you can hear a lot of Tom Waits in Beck, especially songs like Hot Wax and stuff like that. And you can hear all that influence there. And basically, Smokey Ormel spoke about the recording sessions, and he said there's this little room with a barn door. You could hear the dogs in the background and see the people walking by on the road below. It was very rustic and homey. And along with these new people, so we have like a trumpeter, Chris Grady, drummers Andrew Borgia and Christopher Marvin. Also have a DJist, which is a turntablist, should I say, which is a new thing on a Waits record. He was saying to Barney in 1999, I just started playing around with samples, which is kind of a new world to me. During Mule, we brought a guy in, DJ Mark, the Ill Media Reitman, There's a gospel thing on Eyeball Kid and some Balinese samples. So, in case you're wondering, this turntablist DJ or media is on 4 songs. He's on What's He Building, Black Market Baby, Eyeball Kid, and Filipino Brock Springhog. So, yeah, he's not on Take It With Me. Like, you obviously not take that for granted, but just Waits is bringing so many things to the fold. These are 16 songs, there's meant to be 25 songs. It just seems like such a fertile period of imagination for when Mule Variations was being put together.
It's kind of like the Avengers of Tom Waits album,
yes.
really, isn't it? It's like he's bringing all these guys that he's worked with separately together for just one fucking phenomenal album. Although it is weird, like how long was it since? Like, I mean, it's only 2 weeks for us since we did the Black Rider, but how long was it for Tom? Was it 6 years?
Something like that, yeah. You get the feel I think he was in quite a few movies kind of between those periods as well. But he was raising his kids. His kids were very young then. But yeah, you get the idea he's always writing songs. But quite a while, yeah. It wasn't the kind of asylum productivity that he was known for. But I guess part of the respite came from the fact that he was changing labels as well. It's worth noting that Mule Variations was released on Anti, wasn't released on Island, which was released pretty much Tom's last decade or so of music. This is a brand new offshoot of an independent LA punk label, Epitaph. Chris Blackwell, the kind of sated Chris Blackwell, left Island in late 1997. So Waits and Kathleen signed a deal with Epitaph president Andy Corkin in 1998 of June. And he was interviewed in some sort of Canadian fanzine called Exclaim from April 1999. This is called Tom Waits in Dreams, and he's talking to Michael Barkley. And Michael asks, "You're on a new label now. Were there issues before with what you were allowed to put out and what you wanted to put out? Do you have more freedom now?" And Tom says, "My contract ran out with Island, and I was in between trains, and they needed a parental figure over there at Epitaph. It's a good place to be for me. I could do anything over there and they would celebrate it and get behind it. Those kind of situations are rare. I could do can-cans and torch songs and India raggas and Cuban stuff and midget wrestling. And they say, great. I'd say, and I only want to play one gig in Buenos Aires in a place that holds 4 people. They'd say, we love it. When do you want to start? Kathleen and I felt more at home there. Plus, they're musicians. They're forward-thinking. They're not part of the plantation system. They respect artists and they pay them. I really think that they are the way things should be." And then Tom talked on them again the same month in Newsweek, which is obviously a huge publication. This is with Karen Schomer. And she says, "Were you done with Island when you went to Epitaph?" And then he replies, "I was, yeah. I left my contract. My last record for them was The Black Rider. The big fish ate the little fish," which happens invariably. But Epitaph, they're forward-thinking people. They're definitely not old school being 10 for me and 1 for you, 10 for me and 1 for you. They kind of describe themselves as more like a service organisation. If you don't want to tour, fine, we can work with that. They don't give you a list of things they expect from you. In fact, they have a group on the label that was hell-bent on getting its record off the radio, for God's sake. I mean, most people spend their life trying to get on the radio. This group was getting airplay and they were pissed and they sued and the record company was 100% behind them. "We'll get you off the radio." They brought in the big guns and they went down to the station and said, "Listen, we hear you're playing this group and we want them off of there." So I thought that was pretty cool. I thought they showed a kind of madness and flexibility. And, Anti are an awesome label. I mean, now, even though they were back then as well, they're boasting people like Billy Bragg, who I love, if anyone knows Billy Bragg, Bus Driver, the rapper, Grinder Man, Nick Cave's kind of rock outfit, Chucky Weiss as well is on Anti. So, a lot of names there. But, yeah, I think the move with Tom, he's such his own character now. He isn't necessarily, being on Anti doesn't mean he wouldn't have recorded Mule Variations anyway, but it's just a kind of tantalising fit, and he's great to have on that roster. I'm sure that brought a lot of people in subsequently.
Yeah, when Tom was talking with Barney back in Mojo, he says something similar. You've kind of covered it perfectly, so I'll just kind of paraphrase. But he just kind of says Anti gave him a sort of mutual enthusiasm. I really feel like they were fans of Tom Waits. Maybe they approached him, maybe he approached them.
Yeah.
It's not really clear, but. What's cool is he just puts Wayne Kramer told me that Epitaph was 160 beats a minute, so he was glad to have some company. My kids listen to some and most of the bands. See, I'm at that age now where I want to find out what's happening. So you ask your kids, check this out, Dad. So I'm guessing many Tom Waits kids were fans of this record label anyway. And Tom Waits is he's a family business, really. He's kind of the last all American little corner shop, really, isn't he? And it's just him and his wife, and obviously like you say, with Big Face Money, now his son as well. His son's kind of like the main backing musician on Orphans as well, though.
Yes, son features heavily in a lot of his work. Yeah,
and it is just great how he's just come back like he's never been gone. when he was talking with Rip Brents again, he was talking about like just the fact that he's been gone for 6 years. Like, this is such a long time. Like, could you imagine if we were doing this podcast just after the Black Rider came out and we had to wait 6 years until Mule Variations? He says, mainly, the only reasons to write new songs is because you're just tired of the old ones. Throw something out and get another one. It wasn't just like a lightning bolt. For me, it all just kind of starts with something amusing. Something amuses me, and I let it pass through my mind, along with a lot of other things. Hundreds of melodies and ideas go through your head when you're not writing. You just let them wash over you. When we start writing, we just put up a little dam and start catching them. It's like the old butterfly net theory. And then when in Ear magazine, which is, I think it's like a Dutch publication, which the Tom Waits library does translate pretty well. But like we said last week, they mistranslated epic for erection. So yeah, there's take this with a grain of salt. But the interviewer asked him, like, why haven't you been doing anything? And then like Waits kind of he's taken a bit back by that, and he says, well, like, I've been making music for films and for the Alice opera by Robert Wilson, which is the next episode, isn't it?
Yes.
Alice. And the rest, I don't know what I've done before. I've lived. Very strange. If you don't make records, do people think that there is something wrong with you? Are you sick? Well, is it the other way around? You get sick and you make records, and you'll get better if you stop. There's only so much you can do to provide for your livelihood. Art is important, but there's too much attention to it. We keep the world going, and it's not going. We do not turn the crank. Let's not rain. The people who maintain the world hardly get attention. There are no articles written about them. They allow coal to create and work, and late in the night on the highway, with the rest of us drive over it. So I guess Tom, I don't think he's felt pressured to make this album. Obviously, like you said, Anti's very accommodating of whatever he wants to do. But you can feel that maybe there's because the Black Rider is not a proper album in the same way that Frank. Like, I'm at a push to say Frank's Wild Years is not a proper album, even though it is part of the Frank's trilogy. It is still one of those.
It has baggage,
albums.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. Whereas this is just Tom since Road Machine. This is his full-throated me, and. It kicks off, Sam, in one of the most exciting, funny. This song initially I found a little bit aggressive and not overbearing, but you know what I mean. It has that dirty kick. Now when I listen to Big in Japan, I smile the whole way through. Really, I can't get enough of the groove. This is the classic Tom rock opener that he used to do. This isn't Cindy's Waltz. This is more Heart Attack and Vine or Hang On St. Christopher.
This ain't Cindy's Waltz.
No, we're a long way from, But this is Big in Japan, Sam.
So here we go. Sam's comment again on the Waits album openers. But yeah, this is really up there with the best of them, isn't it? Like, we came across Mule Variations. I downloaded the entire discography, and despite Rain Dogs, I kind of relegated this to being Waits to being kind of just weird, but not really that kick-ass.
Yeah.
But then this song grabs you by the shirt and pins you against a wall, and it's like, bitch, this is Mule Variations. This is what the album's going to be like. And again, you try and second guess him. Oh, he can't do anything weirder or more. Just provoking than Bone Machine, and then bam, again, he's just like I think he's still irked that he's coming off the back of a Grammy Award winning album now, Bone Machine, and he's like, you know what, I'm gonna try and just totally turn it all on its head again. And he starts with something new. This isn't Chickaboom, this isn't Spidey's Wild Ride. But as we see on VH1 Storytellers next bonus episode, Tom starts experimenting with vocal manipulations to create unique sounds, and this is one of them very enigmatic beatbox, unintelligible babble, beatbox kind of thing.
So and it kicks off with the beatboxing. But did you realise, maybe this is just me, and I definitely can hear it now, but I didn't hear it until I listened very clinically to the album. The beatbox goes on throughout the whole song.
Yes. Like,
I was under the impression that it kind of started and came back at certain points, but if you listen underneath the chords, underneath I got the house but not the deed, the cars but the boom boom, there's that, it's just constantly there, and it's just giving this song this spiky trundle. Is this Tom's most immediate song? Like, I can't think of any other song that he's written that you could just put on and people might actually quite like it. It's just out there. It's got a brilliant funky... You can almost think of this being like a weird... how Nova Came for the Soul by the Eels became this massive song, even though it's this weird alternative song. Like, you can imagine the song being like some one-hit wonder or something. It's just got that curious edge to it. I can't think of anything else you would put on and people might dig it.
That first chord's just so satisfying, isn't it? It's just perfect.
The two guitars work together very well. One of them being Larry Lalonde from Primus. Obviously, Les Claypool's featured on bass in this song and on many other Tom songs as well.
The drums are played by another Primus bandmate as well.
I believe so.
Brain Mantia, yeah.
Yeah, and that does
it's
give the
just
song
unstoppable.
Yeah, it is. It's just this trundle, isn't it? And Tom was interviewed by Jodie Denberg for the Austin Chronicle, talking about the intro, the beatbox thing, and then Tom just said, "It's just a contest I have with myself in a hotel room. I want to see if I could sound like a band all by myself without any instruments. So I stood banging on the chest of drawers and the wall and headboard, just trying to, get that sound, like that full band sound. That's what I just wound up with, looped it and sampled it, or sampled it and looped it, whatever they call it." So
yeah, like these drums, like you can feel the smack. Like it's very meta. You're aware that this is a musical piece that is being presented to you, and then it's paired with this such an aggressive guitar for Tom. Like this isn't cute little SpongeBob SquarePants Blue Valentine licks.
No.
Yeah. It's so heavy, and like it's not even the heaviest song on the album, so it's almost like a bit of a little distraction really. And then like back to deliver his signature horniness is Ralph Carney on sax and trumpet. And like this pomp that the post Brennan Waits brass has been building up to kind of culminates in this song. Like not only does it kind of move and heave the song with like force and purpose, but it delivers like these little great flashes of spritey brass. It goes, "I got the moon." It's like who knew that you could have such a badass song with so much brass? Like it seems like such an old fuddy-duddy instrument, but Tom yet again is proving that he can take literally any instrument he wants and make a contemporary classic with it.
Yeah, and it's the combination of all the juxtaposition of this really dirty, these guitars sound like they're being amplified at an old train carriage or something, but still that bright brass, as you say, they just work together so well, and that is kind of emblematic of Tom's lyrical rhythms in this song as well. All of the things. I got the A but not the B. Or I've got the B but not the A, etc., just going back, and it begs the question: why is the character big in Japan? What is it that he's lacking in the normal world that affords him to be? Because it's not playing on the social stereotypes. It's not like I haven't got the thing, but I got the samurai or some. It's not some lame kind of stereotypical reappropriation there.
He's just missing something, isn't he? It's like a consolatory prize. Like, well, at least I'm big in Japan. Obviously, just to explain to any of our fans who might not know, but kind of the phrase "to be big in Japan" kind of typically means like a Western singer, band or group seems to achieve more notoriety overseas than in their home country.
It's I can play testament to that as well. Basically, one of my favourite bands.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say this.
Mr. Big. Who were a band that I idolised with Paul Gilbert, Pat Torpey, Bill Sheehan.
They were kept afloat by Japan, weren't they?
And Eric Martin. Yeah, they were. Basically, I mean, they had the number one single for 2 weeks running in the US, which means I wanted to be with you. Not a great song, great guitar solo, but yeah, I was lucky enough to go to Tokyo when I was a bit younger, and I remember going to the Hard Rock Cafe and looking at this wall display, and it was just all pictures of Mr. Big, this obscure band that my cousin liked, and I was like, what? I thought these guys were like a nothing band, and then you find videos of them like Budokan and like giant Japanese festivals, and it's just like, I guess they just love that upbeat kind of shredcore, which don't we all? And it's funny you mentioned that because Tom was asked like, are you big in Japan? And Tom said, well, I hope to be big in Japan after this. I don't know if I'm big in Japan. I've been over there several times, but I haven't been there in many years. This is a song about those people who can't work anywhere else but Japan, and so it's a goof,
I love it when he's talking to Rip Rents, and he does a perfect Tom Waits answer where he says, like, Rip Rents says, so are you literally big in Japan? He says, I see myself in the harbour, ripping up the electrical towers, picking up cards, going in like Godzilla and levelling Tokyo. Jeez. There are people that are big in Japan and are big nowhere else. It's like going to Mars. It's also like a junkyard for entertainment. You can go over there and find people you haven't heard of for 20 years that have moved over there, and they're like gods. And then there are those people that don't do any commercials. They have this classy image all over there. They're hawking cigarettes, underwear, sushi, whiskey, sunglasses, used cars, and beach blankets. The idea that Tom is big anywhere is absurd enough, let alone big in Japan. But what I do like is that it's another song that showcases Waits' obsession with the Orient as well.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a turn-of-the-century Singapore, though. This is kind of more like contemporary Japan, I feel. Even though he never actually mentions anything about Japan.
Yeah, unless Japan was in the chorus, that it could be any country, couldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think fundamentally, lyrically, this is one of his most enjoyable songs ever. It's just that he's addressing his own lack of popularity with such pride and gusto. It means it's painfully charming, and it's also like deceptively simple as a piece, which just lends to, and I'm going to use this word a lot in this album review, sing-along ability. This album is very sing-alongable.
It is, but even if you're not singing along, just listen to these lyrics. They're just very clever. They are almost like child's poetry games. So it's like, if I haven't got the boat, what do I lack? Oh, the lake. The sheets, not the bed. Jam, not the bread. It's very kind of nursery rhyme-esque, but it's very satisfying. Like that kind of like, which is there was a song on Black Rider that I know you didn't really like. That's the Way, but lyrically, this is exactly the same as That's the Way. It's just resolution and setup, which is really fun.
Yeah, but there's no bees bumbling in this.
There's moon and cheese, there's I don't know why a bee's bumbling. There's dogs and buns. Like, if you want to get into the infantile stuff, it's here. But for me, it's more the way the lyrics merge into the structure of the song. So when Tom's going back into the verse after the bridge, when he is actually ebbing and flowing as the song ebbs and flows, he's saying, I've got the ebb, I've got the flow, and then it just stops, and then I got the powder. It's just, and not the gun, which is kind of ironic, just after the song has kind of like popped itself. Lyrics are incredible, and it's a very Tom Waits. None of this is dense either. I feel that if this was going to be the song that got you onto Tom, it doesn't have any of the stuff that is on a lot of the other songs on this album. Explicitly songs like Pony. Lots of weird
it's kind of like expressions. It's a gateway song, though, isn't it?
Nothing on this song you won't understand.
Have you heard his Have you heard his little anecdote about going to Japan?
The train.
Yeah,
please,
he's on to Jonathan Valania in Magnet magazine in an article called "The Man Who Howled Wolf," which I really like.
Nice.
But he says, "I haven't played there in a long time. The last time I was there, I was on the bullet train. I had my little pork pie hat, my pointed shoes, and my skinny tie. Classic Waits look.
Yeah.
There was a whole cart of Japanese gangsters dressed like Al Capone and Cagney, really zooted. Everyone says, 'Don't go in there, don't go in there.' But that was the only place with seats, and everyone else was huddled together like cattle. And they are all around this huge air-conditioned car with tea and little cookies and 6 guys talking around with cigars. I said, fuck, I'm going to go in there and sit down." First time I've ever heard Tom Waits say fuck, by the way. And I did. It was like this big, heavy standoff, but then they started laughing. We all tipped our hats, and I did that little bow. It was pretty funny. Then I brought in all of my guys, and we all sat down, my mob with the Japanese mob, which is, that scene's going in the Tom Waits movie.
Yeah.
That's going in like, Michael Ornstein, I know you're out there. Could you please ask Ron Perlman if he's going to do anything with this? We need to get the Tom Waits movie done. It could be like the I'm Not Here film with Bob Dylan. We could find a younger person to play. The kind of Nighthawk said the diner guy, but like someone like Ron Perlman would be great for like Bad as Me or Orphans, just something like that. We need to get this off the ground. Yeah. We do. Yeah. But from the highs of being in Japan, we have to now go to a place that Tom's kind of sung about before. Barney mentions, and I can't believe I forgot this, but Tom's sung about the wrong side of the road before. And now we're on to the low side of the road. Tom, tell me about low side of the road.
Low side of the road is, literally this song takes my breath away. I think it's absolutely outstanding. I think the opening groove is just savage. It starts off on that old off-kilter light string, and just like you feel like it's sort of tensing up, like this old creature sort of awakening, like this Long Road to Bethlehem sort of Yeats thing. It's just everything's slightly off, and it reminds me of a sort of slowed down Midtown, in the way that in Midtown Tom was using his horn section to kind of make it sound like animals on some distant foreign shore. You know what I mean? Like some sort of, I don't know, like not kind of like a dinosaur, something prehistoric emerging. And before we even go into the lyrics of the song, which are unbelievable, it's just the atmosphere of this road, of this neighborhood. It's just everything's slightly off. I just,
there's this weird boingy element to the song, like jarringly so. There's this sort of perverted little jaunt, isn't there? Yeah. It's got like
oddly a misshapen backbone rhythmically. It's just quite spiny, and I didn't realise that the first verse was all one thing, because Kokomo was always throwing me off. I didn't quite understand what Coke. So I'm on a black elevator going down. Little Joe from Kokomo rattles to the ground. So rattles to the ground is the elevator. Little Joe is from a city basically. Kokomo is a city of central Indiana, north of Indianapolis.
Made famous by the Beach Boys, obviously.
Yes, of course. And then it just kind of, it's twisting on that. I just love the sense of nature being inverted. The dice is laughing at the man that it froze. The road is coming out of the ground. Just if you're gonna go with the apocalyptic Danny's theory, I guess you would have to offer Low Side of the Road as the main tenant.
Danny's Theory is a good album title, by the way. But yeah, this song is, it's as the title suggests, we're getting a little lower, a little dirtier. And initially, when I first heard this album, I kind of saw it as a little plodding. But once you hear it a few times, you really get into the thick molasses atmosphere of this. Like I thought, like, you're kind of meant to be skipping along a pleasant path, but it's anything but that. And it's you mentioned Kokomo, but like it does have one of those great Tom Waits opening lines. I'm on a black. And like his voice, it's like, oh, how many voices do you have left to give us? 50 more, at least 50 more, and they're all perfect. And Tom's bringing the fuzzy guitar back from Bone Machine in full force. It's got this great grind to it, and it really it kind of reminds me of like he's literally dragging a dead priest. This song can't go any faster, and it's weighed down by its dark oddness. Like you are trudging through the mud with this lungless wheeze of the trumpet, played by some lad named Chris Grady, I think, who's also on Filipino Box Spring Hog, and it just adds to this like mournful, tiresome slog, like the Road to Bethlehem, like you say. I didn't know what a chain monkey was till I was doing my research the other day, but they are mostly construction workers and loggers who spend hours. It's kind of like a defunct industry now, but they would wrap tires around the chains of cars, which is something I've only ever seen in The Simpsons when they've got to do it around the bus.
Yes,
when Otto's got to go up a mountain. But yeah, like apparently all of these guys called chain monkeys, they'd have a 50% chance of either being run over or a 50% chance of being frozen to death. So this is a dangerous road Tom is taking us on.
Unbelievably. But chain monkeys for me, I just thought they were literally like fly my pretties. I thought they were just like monkeys that help you onto this boat or something, like some weird
or chain smoking monkeys.
Yeah,
as well.
just like you always imagine, like Barney said earlier, like Kathleen reminded you of like Hieronymus Bosch, and it's that kind of idea. The Bruegel-esque paintings, just all these images of horrific worlds. Your head feels like it's ready to explode, and like the idea of like the dice being rolling and the road rolling on the low and the low side of the road. It's like, how low is this road? Because it wouldn't be a road if it was a cliff. You know what I mean? It's just like a slant. It's just like a slightly off.
Something's off kilter.
Yeah. Now,
there's an instrument on here that I'd never heard of, the octagon or the optical organ, which I was talking to you the other day, and kind of like it's the instrument. Like he doesn't have GarageBand at this point to like sort of do all these loops, so he uses the optical organ. And in an article for Time Out New York, Waits says the octagon is a mid-60s keyboard that uses floppy disks with optical filaments. It's like everything else in popular music. It finally washes up in a Salvation Army 20 years later, and someone picks it up, brings it home and makes a hit record out of it. Bury me, then dig me up. It's like a code of popular music. And the sounds in this are so oddball and non-musical, and like they're just these little sound bites.
Just scooped out. And
what is this? Boing,
boing,
boing. Like, what is that? That is not an instrument. It's got veins of Singapore with that sort of jauntiness to it. When Waits was doing a Q&A with Addicted to Noise magazine, he was talking to Gil Kaufman and Michael Goldberg. He was saying, it's all about the Black Plague in the 14th century. Wrong side of the road, low side of the road. Everyone knows what the low side of the road is. So I'm sorry if you were debating that, Tom. You make that U-turn and you come back and your tyres get stuck and you keep spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. And you wish you could just keep going instead of stopping and turning around. I don't know. It's one of those images. It could be like anything you want it to be about. Wherever the low side of the road is for you, whatever road you're on, whatever the low side of the road is there, it's there for you. And that's what about it is, I guess. And yeah, it's just, it does kind of relate to anyone, I suppose. Whatever your low side of the road is, if you're at a low point in your life. When he's talking to Rip Rents, he was talking about the same song again, and he was talking about Lead Belly. And he was a blues singer, I believe.
Yeah, very influential actually. Kurt Cobain famously covered "Where Did You Sleep Last Night" on MTV.
Oh, that shit! That was him.
That was a Lead Belly song, yeah. On
Fucking
the
hell, man! That song kind of like defined the second year of my university experience.
Wow.
Because a guy that our friend Chris, who will hopefully be appearing on the Only Fools podcast,
Right?
Because we
I thought you just
so many
meant
lectures
literally, like, you know, you didn't know where you were sleeping, but okay.
Well, no, I didn't. I changed flat like 4 times. Tom Waits says, Lead Belly was involved in a skirmish after a dance one night on the dirt road late. Someone pulled out a knife, someone got stabbed, and he went to jail for it. He was rolling over to the low side of the road. I seem to identify with that. I think we all know where the low side of the road is. See, Tom keeps saying we all know what the low side of the road is. So, actually, it's quite a vague image, Tom. Actually, sorry, but it's a fantastic song. It's not quite Blue Valentines, like hit. These are all just like 8 out of 10, 9 out of 10.
No. For me, the song's so affecting, especially towards the final minute or so when it really begins to tense up, and the way it's similar to the ebb and the flow in Big in Japan. You know, when it's like you're rolling over, and it's like dun 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 dun. It just like the whole thing is kind of like, you know, and again, it's that image of nature being inverted. I think that's a very compelling topic for Tom. We see it a lot in Bone Machine. We see it a lot here as well. The idea that the clapper has been ripped out of the bell, the clapper being the actual tongue of the bell. So not only does it give you the image of sort of like just mutelessness and soundlessness, but also someone tearing someone's tongue out the head, like someone is tearing a clapper out a bell. You know, the inference there is pretty obvious. And then you have like the literal horse whips the man that he rode. So it's not the horse attacking the man that he rode, it's the horse's, you know, horrifically stubby hoofs somehow gripping the hilt of a whip. It just gives you and you can see the horse's like flaky arm kind of coiling, and it's just a really you know, horrible kind of inversion of nature. And then it tops off with that probably the best delivery of a line in this song: a dog won't bite if you beat him with a bone. It's like bop bop. It's like someone did year 9 poetry. Like someone knows alliteration works, and it does.
I think that's exactly what Tom was saying when he said Kathleen would help him with delivery and enunciation.
The enunciation, yeah.
The other one that comes to me is in Filipino box string hog. Jesus Christ, I can always make room. Like, just there are so many weird Waitsian spins on words on this album, but I don't think we're going to get onto the sort of Blue Valentines hit after hit after hit, because the third song is called Hold On, and this was one of the few Tom Waits songs that does have a music video that didn't make it onto my blog post about a month ago. Please check it out. It's just all of Tom Waits' best music videos, and this didn't make it onto that because it's mostly just a music video which is literally just 2 shots that keep intercutting of 2 youngsters in a Cadillac, you know, Waits in image, making a break on the open road, and Tom literally just standing there against a wall playing his guitar. Not the most dynamic of videos there. I believe Jesse Dillon, like the guy who defined Waits' music video career, actually did do that one. And yes, this is a slower song, it's a little more maudlin, but my god. Anyway, we're not here to talk about that. Tom, I know you're not the biggest fan of Hold On, but it's not that bad, is it?
It's a song that I've never lived up, and I'm never going to live it down. Like,
and you've been let down.
This is a boring song, Sam. This is a plodding, uninventive track. This doesn't go anywhere. I'm sorry. The central image, like, I'm all for these kind of Tom, kind of, you know, dirgy sort of songs. I get that he needs to have this output, and this is one of his longer story songs. Not a very good story, by the way, narratively. It's not a Romeo's Bleeding or Christmas Card from a Hooker. It's not a very clever, it's not really got any insight beyond the kind of, I'm sorry, Hold On. You can just replace that sentiment with Keep Calm and Carry On. Like, it's got that same just weakness to it. It doesn't mean anything to me. It's not something that I can grip onto and enjoy. There's some good moments, you know. I think the backing's very nice. There's like guitars in the eaves bringing out certain elements. There's a crunchy rhythm guitar that rolls along. You know, Waits can do this sort of thing and he can succeed, but my problem is its length. It's a 5.5 minute song. The last 120 seconds or so are just the "you've got to hold on" refrain. There's 2 minutes of that, and it just brevity is wit here, and I think essentially what that does is it pares the song down to 3.5 minutes, and at 3.5 minutes it doesn't stack up to Big in Japan or Low Side of the Road in quality at all. It's just a very kind of workmanlike track for me.
Like, I don't know, it's one of those, it's a very simple song. I do like the chorus.
But it's just so basic, the chorus, though.
It is, but I feel like
it's just so nudging.
The message itself is so simple, though, that maybe Waits felt like he didn't need any extra bells and whistles for the point to get across.
Almost doesn't need a song.
I don't know, I kind of feel like it's a kind of mature song that kind of uncharacteristically breaks the Tom Waits standard song format, and I think that might be one of the reasons why it might not work for you, because it's rather sweet, melodic music with equally saccharine lyrics.
And delivery.
Yeah, but it's one of the broadest topics of any of his songs. It's another real crowd pleaser, especially in context of this album. And it has a message that, like the last song, literally anyone could relate to.
It is broad.
That might be the problem.
It is broad. Because, sorry, go on.
I was going to say, because we've had this weird Waits for like the last two albums, and he's gone back to this sort of very happy sort of again saccharine, and that could be a bit jarring. But it's very sing along. Reminds me a lot of the Sha-la-la-la-las of Jersey Girl.
Yeah.
And importantly, it does bring a little bit of variety to Mule Variations, considering how weird this album does become. It's a bit of a classic rock palate cleanser, kind of in the vein of Downtown Train, to remind the audience that he isn't just this weird goofball.
I suppose. I don't know why he has to, but I get what you're saying. I understand this, and I think the follow-up song as well, Get Behind the Mule, kind of, they just stop the momentum of the album sluggishly in its tracks, but things kick up back again. But Tom was actually speaking to in the Good News Week interview we quoted earlier with Karen Shomey. He says, "Hold on. I thought that was a good thing to say in a song. Hold on. We're all holding on to something. None of us want to come out off the ground. Weeds are holding on. Everything's holding on. I thought this was a real positive thing to say. It was an optimistic song. Take my hand, stand right here, hold on. We wrote that together, Kathleen and I, and that felt good. Two people who are in love writing a song like that about being in love. That was good." But again, that's kind of hitting the nail on the head, really. It's kind of, there's no grit to that image. You know what I mean? It's just an empty sentiment for me.
There's a great quote from 2002. One's 1999 from a GQ magazine, and Tom actually speaks about how his daughter inspired one of the lines. He says, he's speaking to a lady called Elizabeth Gilbert. We were on a bus coming to LA, and it was really cold outside. There was this transgender person, to be politically correct, and his words, not mine, standing on a corner wearing a short little top and a lot of midriff showing, with a lot of heavy eye makeup, dyed hair, and a really short skirt. And this guy, or girl, was dancing all by himself. And my little girl saw it and said, "It must be really hard to dance when you're so cold and there's no music." And then she goes on to say, Waits took his daughter's exquisite observation and worked it into the ballad called Hold On, a song of unspeakingly aching hopefulness that was nominated for a Grammy and became a cornerstone of his album Mule Variations. I would not say cornerstone. Big in Japan is the fucking cornerstone.
Yeah, there's definitely not, no. And it's after the natural earthly promise of Big in Japan and Low Side. This is just it's a little too hopeful for me.
Do you think it's a little too sweet? Cause
it's a little too sweet.
Yeah. When back to your Karen Shomer interview, he's just talking about how the album can be so rough yet so soft at the same time, and he just says, "Well, I got it all in me. I love melody. I also like dissonance and factory noise, but melody's a big part of my life. It's just a matter of trying to find a way to fit all those things together so you can put them on a record together. They're facets of you. So you can't bemoan him for putting it on the album. This is too good for Orphans, I feel. I'm glad it's on the album, but I think at the end we probably should pick songs that maybe we could drop from this as well as our favorite, at least favorite songs. Mm-hmm. And I reckon both of us, I don't dislike this song. It's not a classic. I love the idea of there's this guy who doesn't have a lot for his girl, but he still treats her with a dinosaur watch and a ring made from a spoon. Mm-hmm. I think that's a lovely image. But yeah, the chorus is great. I do find it very, very sweet. It's kind of a subtle, subdued guitar. It's very different to a lot of his regular riffs. And I don't know. I just feel like I want to put my faith in Waits. I want to, it's not very adventurous, no, but it's again.
Come on up to the house if you want to put your faith in him, man. You don't need to hold on.
I just feel like. He has achieved what he was aiming for, and I can't bemoan him for that.
No, yeah, and I'm sure there are millions of people who love this song. I'm sure there are hundreds of people listening to this podcast who think I'm an idiot for not liking this song, and I get that, but just to me, it has no spine. But I mean, it's soft and it's enjoyable in that sense. And supposedly, according to the Tom Waits library, this could possibly, and I'm not really sure where this is from, this just said spiritual unknown copyright, could be inspired by a song called Hold On, which I'll just paraphrase. Basically, it seems like an old sort of, mystic kind of voodoo track. When you plough, don't lose your track, can't plough straight and keep a looking back, keep your hand on that plough, hold on, and it's just da-da-da-da-da, hold on, so better keep your hand on that plough, better keep your hand right on that plough, head straight for the promised land, keep your hand on that plough, hold on. So yeah, that was just the Tom Waits thing. But we'll move on to the deformed Siamese twin of Hold On, Get Behind the Mule, which is another sluggish track for me personally. This is a song that is almost 7 minutes, Sam. This is a 6 minute 52, and I'm in favour of long songs, don't get me wrong, but I think this song has so little in the way of ideas that it really, I can't get behind it, to be fair with you. Now, just before we get into the song, Sam, this is the 8th longest Tom Waits song. Can you name any of the top 7?
Road to Peace.
Road to Peace, 7 minutes 35, yeah, that's there.
How's It Gonna End?
Not there.
Sins of My Father?
Is there, 10 minutes 37. One more.
Oh my god. One more, maybe. Go on. This is too hard.
The longest Tom Waits song is Nighthawks, 11 minutes and 30 seconds.
Oh, of course.
Your Name, Sins of My Father. The 3rd longest is Pottersfield at 8 minutes 40. The 4th longest is Putnam County at 8 minutes 16. You name Road to Peace, and then you also have A Day After Tomorrow at 6 minutes 53, which is 1 second longer than Get Behind the Mule, Sam. But I've got a feeling you like this one.
It's very well crafted. But again, you are right. For such an early song on this album, it's a little plodding. Maybe it would have been better in the middle. Mm-hmm. Another cracking opening line from Waits. Molly be damned, smoke Jimmy the Hop. And I love the rhyme of lariat and carriot.
Yeah.
And, it does start off even slower, and it builds up to become quite a densely packed sound as it progresses. And maybe it'd be a little bit better if it just kind of was that the whole way through. There's some great silences between the verses, and it adds a bit like an enjoyable tension. There's this great pitter-pattery, clap-handsy, low-key percussion, which you can almost feel like you are in the room, just tapping your leg in the sessions as Waits records
Definitely.
it. We got some fantastic blues harp again on this one. It's basically just like a greater noted harmonica, isn't it? It's just got a greater range to it, and it's very much the Mule Variation instrument. It really doesn't appear that much throughout the rest of his career, as often as it does here. Let's not forget that Waits, himself, he is the mule in VH1 Storytellers. He'll say, my wife says I didn't marry a man, I married a mule. I said, baby, you gotta get behind the mule. And yeah, I don't seek this song out. Sadly, it is overly long, and on an album of hard-hitting classics, especially one with 16 tracks, it kind of does outstay its welcome somewhat.
It does,
and it doesn't even do the thing that I dislike. Where Tom will hint at moving the song in a different direction and then pull out at the last minute and then go back into his original rhythm. I'd be happy with that, but it is. I think this is my Hold On. It is just very repetitive. It does have a nice ending with the blues harp and guitar.
It does have a good ending, I will say. Yeah. But just the lyrics I struggle to get on board with. It's just kind of Tom's he's done this story a lot better before.
Well, there's 2 lyrics that kind of come up in my mind. I love the rousing idea of stirring my brandy with a nail, which is something that people on Imgur have always drawn. Tom Waits fans always draw him like a nail in like a whiskey glass, and I do feel like somewhere there's a bar that serves that, like a rusty nail. That it's a great name for a cocktail. But the idea of always keeping a diamond in your mind or a sapphire in your mind actually comes from the Wojciech play. That would actually become Blood Money. And there is a song on that, in fact, called Diamond in Your Mind. So again, I love how Waits has a canon to his songs.
Well, it's funny you mention that, actually, because in Addicted to Noise, he's asked about that. Basically, the interviewer says, you reminded me when you said it says in the song, the weeds grew high. You said, always keep a sapphire in your mind, always keep a diamond in your mind, never let the weeds get higher than the garden. I look that as, this is the interview saying, don't let the bullshit get in the way of seeing the truth or the gems in life. And Tom says, there you go, yeah, sure, you got it. That sounds good. And then the interviewer says, what were you intending when you wrote that? And Tom just says, just that, you got it. You hit it right on the head. You got the message. So Tom connecting with his listeners there. But yeah, for me, the song, I mean, there's interviews before where they're basically talking about how they did so many different versions of this song. Did like a Chinese version, a cha-cha, a ragga version, a cappella version as well. And I don't think there ever was a good version of this track. It's just a lumbering thing. It's almost like from those opening notes, from that skitting guitar solo above the rhythm. You know where this song's going. You know it's going to be get behind me. It's going to have that sort of feel to it. And it's just, I'm not along for the ride. I never feel like I'm discovering anything new with this song. I know every edge and corner to it, and it's just not exciting me beyond the outro, sorry, which is quite organic and improvisational and feels real. I love the outro.
Yeah, like it does seem like he's more in reverence of Robert Johnson in this song, because obviously Robert Johnson's father told Robert to, you know, get behind the mule in the morning and plough, and maybe he's just a bit too reverent of the, because like of, you know, all this country music that he's been getting into. Like apparently he went to the Library of Congress just to listen to all of these old songs, and yes, their influence is so pervasive in this album. But yeah, it is just it. Like a mule, it's a very stubborn song. It doesn't fuck off. You know what I mean?
That's true. Worth saying as well quickly, this is Smokey Hormel's only guitar appearance on the album. He just play a few other instruments of the album, and he's the main guitar you can hear in this track. He does a great job. You know, it's got like a little hook, catchy hook, in the morning and plough. You know, the sheer sense of like of being asleep and then within a second later being, you know, waking up in the morning and just ploughing straight away. Like there's quite a visceral kind of surreal again image. But
well, there's another little line that seems quite throwaway, but then Tom goes into a bit more detail. This is an interview for a radio show called Sonicent, or hang on, Sonic Net, and he talks about Birdie Joe Hoax, and he says this one gal, her name was Pretty Joe Hoax, her name was Birdie Joe Hoax as well. She pulled up this beautiful hoax. She told a ticket vendor at a Greyhound that her aunt in California had sent a dispatch to the office in West Virginia. Some money had exchanged hands, and there was supposed to be some sort of cyber ticket. This was going to make it possible for her to ride the Greyhound continuously, one of those all-day passes. One thing that she created in her mind, she managed for a 3-card Mollier ticket. They finally busted her and took her ticket. But before they caught her, she crossed the US something like 100 times. But if you're out there, Birdie, my hat's off to you. So if a Birdie's listening to this podcast as well, which I'm sure she is, our hat goes off to you as well. But yeah, I'd be interested to hear the cha-cha or Chinese versions of this song.
Me too.
Because everything that Tom Waits has ever done is now on YouTube. Essentially, we've got the Alice tapes, we've got the Black Rider tapes, we've got the Bone Machine tapes, and they are so fascinating. But we're going to pick up now back to another fantastic song.
Yes.
I absolutely adore The House Where Nobody Lives.
I do,
and it makes its way onto any Tom Waits playlist I make.
Yeah, it's
really
an incredible track, because I remember seeking out initially on the VH1 Storytellers when I was just getting into Waits. Obviously, this on Mule as well, which is one of my first ones. But for me, it was a title. It was just quite an intriguing title, and I just wanted to know what Waits would do with a title like that. And then when you hear those opening chords, it reminds me a lot of Old 55, not necessarily melodically, but in the sense that it's a piano, but there are 2 very, very audible guitars on top of it, acoustic guitars, kind of weaving, and not doing the sort of annoying thing of just providing fills where they don't need to be, like really reacting with the music. There's a time when this is Hormel and Ribot both playing on the song, and you know, which is, and like, you know, Tom talks about the birds, you know, the birds in the chimney and all that. And you hear like almost like a tweeting, you know, in the notes. There's just a beautiful ideas there, full of intelligence and feels and licks and double stops. It's just a tastefulness to this track. But before we even delve into the lyrical melodic nature, I just think instrumentally wise, this is a new thing for Tom, really. This is a song with many layers on it that isn't just a derivative blues number, i.e. Hold On or, you know, Get Behind the Mule. This is a real song, and I think the way he's composed this, because this could be a picture in a frame. This could be a song on its own, essentially. Doesn't cry out for this accompaniment, but it works all the better for it. I mean, this is an amazing track.
It feels effortless, doesn't it?
It does.
And you know, we all love a good Tom Waits piano ballad, but here he just syncs up and complements it so well with the guitar, and it just evokes that nostalgic emotional response.
Just as high as the door.
And to me, it's a mournfully sentimental song that kind of touches on the same themes sung about in songs like Broken Bicycles just that, you know, that transient, forgettable nature of possessions, and it's people that give inanimate objects any true meaning. And, you know, it really is sad to see anything disused, really.
Yeah.
And there's this real pained way in which Tom sings this song, like, you know, he really personifies this house and gives it real personality. You feel the house itself is yearning to have a family live back inside it, and it's being like deprived of its function in life. And I just love how Waits himself takes the time in the song to muse over what could have happened to the house.
Yeah,
You know.
lyrically the song's very interesting because as Tom is doing this constantly, he's always turning his title slightly to make you feel a bit different, paradox you a bit. Because at first it's literally about a house where no one lives. You know, windows are all cracked and there's newspapers on the porch, etc., all that sort of stuff. But then he ruminates on, if you had a house that was opulent and beautiful, but there was, and everyone lived in there, but there was no love, that's exactly the same thing. Like, it takes this existential turn to, like, you know, a house could be full of people, a family who hates each other. It's not a house then in Tom's eyes. It doesn't live up to this kind of eternal concept, which obviously in 1999 when he recording this, he'd be in the throes of having young children and kind of enamoured with family life and stuff like that. But it's just a really clever turn. It's not just a song about an abandoned house, even though explicitly it is. It's kind of a bit similar to how Georgia Lee, which we'll get onto later, like the first two stanzas are more an attack on God's relation to Georgia, and then the third is more just God's relation to every Georgia that's out there right now, you know. And this is the same thing with House Where No One Lives. It's just such a intelligence in Tom's writing that makes these songs so much more fun to revisit.
Like the specificity of all the imagery is indicative of the fact that Waits didn't write this with Kathleen.
Yeah.
Like, it's so personal. You can almost picture Waits walking around this old rickety house trying to salvage these memories. And he was saying in the cover story, Addicted to Noise magazine, he was saying, I don't know, you just go by it every day and wonder about it. I went by it every day on the way to school. Over time, the weeds got higher and higher. First, you think, they've got to mow that lawn, must be on vacation. Weeds get higher and higher. Then I remember at Christmas time, all the neighbours were concerned about the house because it had this bad tooth in the smile. and then they strung some Christmas lights on it just to give it a little pep during the season. It was a soul tune, really, and I really like that Mark Ribot guitar on there. Yes, like this is such a personable song. Like just the idea that Waits is singing about his own childhood again in that sort of Broken Bicycles, yearning for the past sort of way. But now that he's a little older, he's kind of and this is indicative of the whole album. There's a lot of de-romanticization of old Waits stereotypes. Especially in songs like Georgia Lee and Cold Water, and I can imagine a younger Waits kind of like really like making this a bit of a happier tune, like, you know, it's about this weird creepy house, but he's so mournful here. He's so upset that this house is deprived of what it needs and what it wants to just to be a house, and all and just like the passage of time, the weeds, all of that, it all just comes together to make a very, very emotional song. And it's perfect. It really is. It gives you a warm, fuzzy feeling whenever you listen to it.
It does, and the house is the perfect tabula rasa as it is for Tom as a person, and we see how Tom projects his own personality onto what is effectively a blank canvas here. Because, like, I understand that, you know, the weeds have grown up in the newspapers, but they could have just moved, and someone could have just not bought the house. But Tom is projecting on this idea of them leaving and something going wrong, and blah blah. But it could have just been like, oh, they sold the house to an uncle who didn't want it in the end, and blah blah blah. Now it's just not being sold; it's going vacant. Like, and it's just interesting that Tom projects all this abject misery, which in a sense is hopeful because of that third kind of sestina as he kind of spirals off and builds something else. But his delivery, similar again to Old 55, it's the bridge work that is really outstanding. I love the once it held laughter, once it held dreams. That little refrain there, and you can hear the guitars like. Just like kind of bending up, searching, colliding so well, harmonising where they don't need to, but it just brings out little aspects of the song that are just gorgeous. You know, there's birds in the chimney and an old chest of drawers, so the birds are really infiltrating the house as well, which is interesting. It's not just superficial, like, you know, this house is really almost going back to the roots.
Yeah, which is what Tom's doing on this album, just returning to the country, returning to the mother, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Returning to the homeland. But from a place of a fixed abode, we now go to Wanderers.
Oh man,
another stellar track. I feel that Cold Water is not only one of Tom Waits' best guitar tracks, but one of his best songs in general.
Yeah, I would say
my
it's one of
God.
his best songs. I would also agree. that it's one of his
Like-
absolute best numbers.
You get this stark, grungy, bitter, angry guitar that just mirrors this dissatisfaction with the hobo lifestyle, and it's a fantastically simple riff.
Yeah.
It's so
nothing.
satisfying.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything. I think Tom's the guitarist on this one,
I believe so. Yeah.
and it. What I like the most though is the percussion. Actually,
It's
it
like
really
a
goes for that-
cowbell, right? It's like a sort of...
Yeah, there is a bit of country cowbell, which I've always had a soft spot for. And it just goes for that junkyard tin pan alley feel. Like, it's being played on old rusty pans and basins that even the rag and bone man would pass up on. Like, he's literally like gone outside the chicken coop. Oh, well, this is what they drink the water out of. Ba-boom, ba-boom. And then the way it moves into that hooting solo that then shifts into a screeching howl solo. The passion behind what Tom's singing about in this song is so good. Mm-hmm. And I was listening back to our first episode when we reviewed Closing Time, which you should all totally check out, by the way, if you haven't.
Yeah.
TomWaitsPodcast
TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com, by the way, if you disagree with anything you said about Mule as well, or agree.
Yeah. And we actually asked, does Tom Waits ever do backing vocals in his later career? Mm-hmm. And indeed, in this song, he does.
Yes.
And whether it's a double track on Tom's part or his backing crew is kind of up for debate. The sources are kind of separate on this, but yeah, I could talk about the instrumentation of this song all day, but the lyricism of this song is what really takes it to the next level. Mm-hmm. I think. Firstly, Tom's very sympathetic towards the homeless characters, and he really does highlight the harshness of the realities of their lives in this song. Dirt is their rug. That this is no life that anyone wants, and these aren't just average hobos either. Tom mourns pregnant women and Vietnam vets. Mm-hmm. And again, I've mentioned earlier, I think there would have been a time when Waits would have romanticised the wandering hobos. Like, yes, he does mention riding the rails and stuff like that, but within this song there is this deep, heavy pity for them, and like just the way that he lists all these horrible things that happen to them as being their price of freedom. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Like, so if you want to be off the grid, you're gonna have to fucking abandon everything. And these are drifters that are entirely different from the street rats found in Soldiers Things or anything from Rain Dogs. And the imagery in this one refers back to almost a knapsack traveller waltzing Matilda type feel to it. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad, and the cold water is such a powerful image. Imagine waking up cold and wet after a night.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's almost like you're forcing yourself to wake up as well with the cold water. Like, you can't stay wherever you are.
Police at the station, they don't look friendly.
Well, the fact that he's cataloguing all these, reading the Bible by 40 Watt Bob. I always loved watching TV through the window of a furniture store. So not through the window of a TV store where it'd all be on. Like, the TV be in the back of the room, wouldn't it? If you were like squinting to watch it. There's something almost funny about that, but almost even more depressing. But it's kind of counteracted by the first line of that stanza being, "I look 47, but I'm 24."
Which is Waits constantly talks about his appearance at the moment, doesn't he? Like, my friends say I'm ugly, but I've got a masculine face. I wonder if he's got like body issues with his handsomeness, because Kathleen's a beautiful woman.
She is,
and yes, she is. So he might have a bit of anxiety about that.
Well, I don't know how much personal history is being ploughed into it, but there's definitely a moment in Tom's childhood that he referenced with Jonathan Verlaine in The Man Who Howled Wolf, which you said before. Which kind of chimes directly with some of the lyrics from the songs, where Tom says, quote, "I have slept in a graveyard and I have rode the rails. When I was a kid, I used to hitchhike all the time from California to Arizona with a buddy named Sam Jones. We would just see how far we could go in 3 days on a weekend. See if we could get back by Monday. I remember one night in a fog, we got lost on the side of the road and didn't know where we were exactly. And the fog came up and we were really lost then, and it was very cold. We dug up a big ditch in a dry riverbed, and we both laid in there and pulled all this dirt and leaves over us like a blanket. We were shivering in this ditch all night, and we woke up the morning and the fog had cleared, and right across from us was a diner. We couldn't see it through the fog. We went in and had a great breakfast. Still my high watermark for a great breakfast, the Phantom Diner." So this is obviously talking about the slept all night in a cedar grove, born to ramble, born to rove. It's just the rhythm for me. It's the repetition. It's a sense of like a chain gang, like an old prison gang on the side of the road, breaking rocks, and they're all wearing jumpsuits and they're all just sort of singing to pass the time. Like this sort of call and response, the sort of song that you only need someone to know the lyrics, one person to know the lyrics of, because you're constantly repeating what's gone before you, so it's quite easy to sing along with. And like you say, the guitar, the very the power chords effectively that's coming out of this thing, and it just beautiful delivery, the lumbering rhythm, the slap and pop of the drums, are just the background, the instrumentation. There's so much to this song. Tom is merging those old affectations that he's been obsessed with since day dot, putting them into a modern context in Mule, and it just sounds extraordinary. Like, it's just the power of this song is unrelenting, really, and its imagery. There isn't a line in here that isn't terrific. It doesn't tell you something new about the character introduced to it. The fact that he finds an old dog and he seems to like him, it's all this very transitory thing, isn't it? Nothing is staying. He might find a dog again, he might be in the Cedar Road, he might read a bit more of a Bible by another 40-watt bulb, but there's no sense of complacency here. There's this constant just trundling. In effect, the only thing that he is tradition is the cold water. Is being made to feel alive in this world, even though it's very difficult to survive. Begging on the side of the freeway is about as hard as it gets, he says.
I think Waits importantly doesn't judge the homeless who are drinking as well. Like, obviously he's had his own problems with booze, and I think he just knows that if these people's lives are so bad, they need a little voice, because it's either that or they're probably going to kill themselves. And there is this threat of death in this song. It's not like Bone Machine, where it's like the homeless are gonna die. It's just like it's very much just like, oh my god, he must feel helpless that he can't help all these people. Like, he's got a bit of money now. Tom loves talking with regular folk, but he can't help everyone, and there's so many that he can't help, and they will always exist. Like, there will always be people waking up with the cold water, and whether or not they are the poor in America, there are people all over the world, whole countries where people might wake up with the cold water. And it's just such a painfully tragic song to break down, really. No,
and I just want to say quickly on the guitar solo as well. It's absolutely incredible guitar solo, which is really the centerpiece of the song. Ribot slumbering in with a swagger around the 3-minute mark, sort of clawing out from the marshy bass of the song, and to mimicking like a coring in and out of like train signals. Like, it feels like you really are on the rails, and then it just goes up the fretboard, and he's just playing on these blues tropes, paying real attention to the soft movement, fitting the solo pieces in a timeless way. It feels very classic. It's satisfyingly short with no real exaggeration either, which is something that plagued Waits' earlier interactions with guitars. Look at $29, for example. That could be a bit over and over. But yeah, just absolutely adore this song. Really marvel at it. I think it's just one of his best ever pieces.
I've just got an update from the Tom Waits Club. The piano has been drinking, not me. Someone's literally just posted cold water.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, that's really cool. Now, from one quite sad song to another quite sad song, man. Really. We've got Pony. Oh, Pony.
Pony is Pony floors me. I used to listen to Pony when I was like 17 at night, trying to get to sleep. Not that it would send me to sleep, but I used to just like listen to it in the dark. I just found it so powerful.
Well, we've moved from mules to ponies, so you could obviously expect much more of, like, for such a widely loved animal, that you may guess it's a bit more of a upbeat track, a cuter track. But what we get is a song just about yearning for home.
Yeah.
Yearning, maybe this is the guy who needs to get back to the house where nobody lives, and maybe he's lost. Maybe there's not even a home to go back to. And like, the thing that stands out on this guitar is this sorrowful dobro resonate guitar that starts off the track. And I love the sound of the fingers that scrape along the strings, and it just gives this great bluegrass country sound that it does place you firmly in the world of Mule Variations. And then we get John Hammond, who would go on to cover a boatload of Tom Waits songs on his own album Wicked Grin, which I highly recommend. He even duets with Waits on the closing track, but he does some phenomenal blues harp on this one, and it's just such a unique Waitsian instrument that it's kind of drudged up, and it's the specific sound. It's a very it's a more aggressive bullfroggy type harmonica, and it echoes the glory days of country music that he's been listening to and been influenced by, but it finds itself on this very depressive album spot instead. And it's not mocking or parodic. It's just aware that the past is the past, and it's had its heyday. But when it kicks in, it's such a powerhouse performance, and it contrasts beautifully against the softer Waits vocals. Oh, I love this song.
Yeah, I love this song so much. I think the lyrics are unbelievable. For whatever reason, I'm obsessed with evocations of small towns and the minimal lives.
Murfreesburg.
Yeah, just people. I'll talk about people like Alice Munro, William Faulkner, John Steinbeck. These rural antecedents, and just the whole world. This song could almost be the final song Tom ever writes, because it's him kind of looking back on this character of the traveller, and then kind of just hoping that in the end he can just go back to, obviously we can't be San Diego or Panama County as we are now, but just all these references to this world. Burnt face Jake, ran the hard line for Ida Jane, and just this guy, the fact that he's putting refuge, he's hoping to go return through this pony, through this kind of, ponies are very sweet, aren't they? They bring people out. People love little ponies, don't they? Like, regardless of My Little Pony, people loved them as a meme before that. They were just a really gorgeous animal, and just Tom is populating this song. Pony's like soaked in these references that are classic Tom references to what does that mean, but it doesn't really matter. Like, I didn't know what a Manzanita cross was. I didn't really know what a B&O was. It turns out a B&O is like catching a blind, is like getting a sort of hobo train. Like the B&O was the Baltimore and Ohio Railroad, and a blind was a kind of a blind car, so riding blind, no one has seen you got on, so it has no windows. Tom's kind of building on that, and Manzanita is a type of shrub as well that sort of comes up here. But again, like you say,
is that like red, twisty, horrible thing?
Yeah.
Like all these, all these very specific Waitsian images and all these brags do remind me of a kind of a bygone small change age in Waitsian's writing histories. Like songs like Jitterbug Boy and The One That Got Away. They do kind of reference Pony a bit in just that there's this character who we can't trust him necessarily. Anything after any Tom Waits character after Bone Machine you really can't trust. But no. He does seem desperate. The repetition of Pony, and it's just like on one end he's making all these brags about these things that he's done, places he's been, peoples he's seen. But at the end of the day, he just wants his pony to get him home, and it's something that anyone can relate to.
But that defeatist hope, like a pony is not going to know the way home, seeing as kind of he's got on trains, you know what I mean? It's not like he's gone with this one pony all the way. So he's kind of putting all his salvation in a dumb animal that won't do anything. And maybe that's a brighter metaphor for him himself, like he's kind of just gone too far. Like there is no natural way home. And, Tom is on a form here. One of the lyrics from this song is one of my all-time favorite lyrics. I lived on nothing but dreams and train smoke. For me, that is such an evocative, powerful image, that connotes the romanticism of the hobo vagrant lifestyle, with an acceptance that this is a life without substance and the material has to be mental. Somehow my watch and chain got lost. I wonder how. Like, the worlds you've been to, like, of course it would have got lost. And then tops it out before the final chorus. I wish I was home in Evelyn's kitchen with old Jip curled around my feet. Just saying so much and so little.
Well, he talks about that to Rip Rents, actually. He says, my Aunt Evelyn died whilst we were making the record, meaning Mule Variations. She was my favourite aunt. She and my Uncle Chalmer had 10 kids and raised prunes and peaches. They lived in Gridley, and there'd been a lot of times when I'd been far away from home. So obviously, this distance is evoked in the song. And I thought of Evelyn's kitchen. And I know that there are a lot of people that love them. And I know that same kitchen. So that's why I put it in there. They had this old dog named Gypt. If you make up songs, sometimes you just get up in the morning and start singing something on the way to work. You don't know why. And maybe it's worth remembering. Or maybe it's not. And, he says, like, again, with Rip Brent, he just says, oh, I've written songs like that before. You're out far away from home. How are you going to get back? It's that kind of song. And yeah, he has kind of written songs like this before. People who are lost, people who are, are not on
very
the right
common
path.
theme.
But this is the best, probably.
This is probably the best, yeah.
It's nice pinpoint accurate, isn't it? It's like it's military grade missing home.
And then projecting that loss of home on like a little cute animal as well. Talks about Murfreesboro, Maxwell Street, Hush Bikina. This is some of Tom's best place names here. And
the Tom Waits library provides maps, which is fantastic.
Big up the Tom Waits library as ever.
So that was Pony. It's one of the best Waitsian animal songs. He sings about animals a lot, but we go from the world of animals definitely to the world of man. This is probably the most populated song on this album.
Yeah.
What's he building in there? Okay, we've talked about career-defining Tom Waits songs on this podcast before, and this song could not be ignored in that conversation. And at least as far as our friendship circle is concerned, this is a song that's brought up constantly. and it's also the highlight of the VH1 Storytellers performance, which we'll talk about soon. And I wish it had that little audio loop play at the start that he does in the live performance. This is the only spoken word track proper on the album, and it's a song about paranoia. Tom, tell me about what's he building.
What's he building in there? It was such a sort of slap in the face when I listened to VH1 Storytellers, because I've never really, that was like my early Waits introductions, and I never encountered him in this mode. Obviously he'd been doing this for a while beforehand. I remember hearing this and asking a friend of ours, oh, what else is like What's He Building in there? Like, what has he done anything like that? And he was like, oh yeah, like, you know, Knife and Hennepin and Ocean Doesn't Want Me, and, you know, sort of stuff like that, kind of the more spoken wordy sort of stuff. And just mesmerised by this song. And a lot of people, and the common analysis of this song, which is, you know, very true, that it's kind of about the Unabomber and a reflection on America and you know, twiddling the blinds and the neighbours next door and all that sort of thing. For me, I think this song's more exciting when you consider it almost as a meta-ironic song on Waits' part, of the audience looking in on him. Because we often wonder that. What is Waits building in there? What has he been doing for 6 years? You know, we are peering in on him, and this podcast is testament that we are obsessed with this man, and we do want to know what's going on musically at all times, you know. But as a bit of sonic invention, I think this is the apotheosis of what's been going on since Dragging a Dead Priest and Little Boy Blue. You know, all these kind of these soundscapey songs. I don't think Tom does one better since or before, really. I think lyrical content aside, if this is just instrumental, it's unbelievably good. But obviously the lyrics just take it to that next level. You know, he talks about the TV show, the Blue Light, the TV show. You can hear this kind of, it's very echoey and it's very off the center of the mic, but it's kind of a triumphant 20th Century Fox kind of da 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 da. You can hear it, and you also hear it when he mentions the hook line porch. It's this whole world that he's built. These aren't just sounds. There's a sense of perspective and dimension. I love this song, and you know, he was being interviewed by Gil Kaufman in the Addicted to Noise cover story, and he says, Waits is talking about the song. It's about a tweaker. I don't know what it's about. So even from there, he's glib. You know, he knows that it's kind of like it's our projection, same to you know, House Where No One Lives to a certain extent. Everyone is curious about their neighbours. He continues, and then Goldberg says, "You've seen Rear Window, obviously." And Waits is like, "Right, what little they know about you. Whoever your neighbours are, they've already designed a story about you. Wears those fatigue jackets. He's got the baseball cap with the wings on them, but he's not in the service. What the hell's going on? He drives that Valiant. He plays that crazy music all the time. Sounds like Japanese stuff coming out the window. We all do it. We all do it. You know, these, you know, 3 things about your neighbours. You can make a story, then you'll add to it as it develops. So, and do we feel as if we have any right to know, and each of this is up to us, right?"
Yeah, if you've ever had a nosy neighbour or you've just nosy parents or anything, you really can relate to this song. Yeah. It's a song about Chinese whispers. Yes. And you know, the paranoia that's built up in this song is fantastic, and it hints at like as you said, an unfounded paranoia. Like, and it does, again, it relates to Waits. You know, just because someone isn't immediately friendly, transparent, open, non-eccentric, or just this pillar of the community, there is this immediate room for rumours to begin based solely on what they don't know. And then it's scary to see how a community can just turn on those who don't fit the mould immediately. Like, there's the very famous Waits story about the crooked tree and the straight tree, and how the straight tree was like, "Oh, crooked tree, why don't you grow tall? Why don't you grow tall?" And Tom prefers the story where it's the straight tree that gets cut down, and it's the crooked tree, the weirdo, the oddball, that lives because he is so weird. But here, the oddball is a threat. It is
Frankenstein's monster.
I'm not too brushed up on the Unabomber. Was he the guy who blew up that massive building, like full of kids or something?
There was something. I'm not going to be ignorant enough to say that I really know, but I know that he exists in the kind of, you know, annals of conspiracy theories and stuff like that. And obviously that's not to say it wasn't real, of course, but there is kind of, you know, he's a mythic figure in there. But it's the writing. Well, you know.
Yeah. Speaking of mythic figures, in Mojo, he actually compares him to a character from a very famous book, a book that has a sequel that's been sort of raped out of the annals of the poor writer's work. Of course, I'm talking about To Set a Watchman.
Yes.
Oh my God! Like that, I've never seen a book be so universally panned upon release, and I'm not really into like the literature circle at all. But Tom says, We all seem to be compelled to perceive our neighbours through the keyhole. There's always a Boo Radley in the neighbourhood. The village idiot that you see as he drives his yellow station wagon without a windshield. He has chickens in his backyards and he doesn't get home till 3 a.m. But he says he's from Florida, but the licence says Indiana. So, I don't trust him. Again, that really sounds like Tom Waits. Chickens in the yard, not coming home till 3. The station wagon. Yeah, and you know what? Until he said that, I never really thought about it that way. But yeah, he is the creepy guy. Like, just say if music is a town. You've got the mayor's wife who's Lady Gaga, and then there's this weird guy who's just like he's not in the mainstream. Tom does keep to himself. Like, when we get on to take it with me, we'll see how precious he finds his privacy. And I think Tom relates to this character quite well. Like, yeah, why do we have to know who he is? What right do we have? But it's just so creepy. And there's actually a music video for this, along with "Come On Up to the House." I thought these two videos were kind of like fan videos, like done on YouTube. But no, it's just really cheap, and it's basically just shots of a house. And we never see what's going on. We don't even see a light inside. It actually looks like one of those terrible, just weird creepy pasta type videos where there's going to be some monster. I forget what that Slender Man. That's what it's called. Okay. It looks like one of those music videos, but. Yeah, it does add to that sort of mystery. This is a very mysterious song.
It is,
and there could be no danger though. There could be no danger here, and it is just what we're putting onto the song. He might not even be building anything. He could be like installing a new kitchen.
Yeah,
and it's just so weird how humanity, a topic Tom's been constantly fascinated in. The human collective, the human experience, the mind, how we are programmed as animals who once lived on the plains. We're in this rural, we're in the wilderness. We are looking back at the past. We are animals that are trained to assume the worst because that's what keeps us alive. But it's not what keeps other people alive, and it's a dangerous element that I think Tom really pointedly addresses. Really,
yeah, and it's one of Tom's favourite ways of writing. The accumulation of details, just little things that stick with you. You have subscriptions to those magazines. And the idea of the formaldehyde to choke a horse. His ex-wife, lives in some place called Mayor's Income, Tennessee, which I've always loved.
I always thought, is that like due to some idiot reading like a letter on his porch? That is meant to
I
be
think it's
like,
just a very obvious Tom jokey name place or something. He has hundreds of those up his sleeve, doesn't he? Like, and sort of obviously famously Mayor's Incomes, if we're going by Quimby, or any famous like Chris Christie, the New Jersey guy. I don't know if he's the mayor, but he's some sort of high up in the American politics sphere. But there's always dodgy dealings. They always seem to be going out of town. So Mayor's Income is a great name for a little American town. Talks about the tune that he's whistling. Apparently, according to Tom Waits' library, the tune Waits is whistling seems to be very similar to one that Quint whistles in the movie Jaws in 1975.
It is, yeah.
The whistling in the film happens just after the shark attack on the orca, when he's standing out in the pulpit as the shark disappears. The dusk is coming and he is holding a harpoon gun. So interesting little reference there. But if you're just taking this, if you just give this song to kids to read, it's brilliant. The writing is absolutely fantastic, and it just plays into the little gaps that people give you, and you can just kind of exploit them and assume, like you say, he's probably just banging down a new, 3-piece suite or something. There's probably nothing else there. No one saw him signal outside on his flashlight or whatever. You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, but you keep going and you keep going.
There's also the great VH1 Storytellers sort of extended version with a couple of little extra details, like he said it was from Tampa, but he has Indiana plates. He said he was in the service for 27 years, but he's only 27 years old. Tom's performance just perfectly comes out there. But yeah, that was wow, that was a fantastic.
It's
song,
an incredible song, and just to sum up, actually, Tom is being interviewed in Addicted to Noise again. and they talk about this song, and he says that quote, we try to do that as a song over and over and over. It wouldn't work as a song. I just spoke the words and the whole thing came together. And then he's asked, there's one song that feels like a field recording. It's almost like there are crickets in the background. Was that done outside? And then Waits says, in terms of what's he building in there, no, right in here. They just set up a whole bunch of instruments. I work with some really great engineers. They don't make value judgments. If you bring you can bring something from a ditch that you found on the way to the studio. I'll put it in the room and circle it like it's a moon rock. They'll tap on it with a hammer. They're like scientists that way, and I like that. Everything is a potential instrument. It depends on how you use it. And what's he building in there is a wild experience that you have to just put it on pretty soon after introducing someone to Waits, don't you? It's the acid test. Right, now this next track, I'm not saying that I didn't know Mule Variations really, really well, I did, but there's always going to be one or two songs on an album that maybe you even love that just, aren't necessarily the ones you put on all the time. Maybe you don't like them explicitly, maybe just for some reason they're not as well known to you, even though, I know Got Cold Water and Coming Up to the House Like Anything, Black Market Baby was one of those ones that was a little bit more off for me. It just wasn't a song that you could tell me and I'd start singing it to you, you know what I mean? It wasn't sort of something that got trapped in my head. But I've got to say, upon revisiting it, it's a fun track with a surprisingly kind of standard real guitar hero guitar solo kind of in the middle, but I really like the track of this. I really like the idea that finally Waits is describing a woman. It's very rare in Waits' songs for him to be talking about a woman. He's often talking about, think about Jitterbug Boy or Putnam County or Jack and Neil. These are all kind of like hymns to man out on the road, the traveller. But in Black Market Baby, he's kind of discussing this very, very interesting figure who, there's interesting pun about her even sleeping with presidents as well, which is, she checked in with the president. She ran up quite a bill, which is quite nice at the time. Obviously, Clinton would have still been the Democratic president. But Black Market Baby sound.
Oh, I never thought about that. Yeah, that's a funny little dig. Waits isn't totally politicised yet. This isn't Road to Peace or Day After Tomorrow.
Well, in the Colosseum, come on, that's a pretty big political statement.
Yeah, good point. This is quite a sinister track. Obviously, the black market being prostitution. It's been a while since Waits has sung about a prostitute, but he's not doing it in that sort of. And then she was on the street corner with a blue light and a smile on her face. There's like none of that. Like I love how he calls her a bonsai Aphrodite, which is just a fantastic little way of saying it. His voice is fantastic on this as well. I just love that sort of. Really, really, really like the guitar like comes out of the earth like
yeah, it does. Yeah, it's very swampy. It reminds me quite a bit in a certain way of House of the Rising Sun by the Animals, just in the sense of the chords at the start and also the fact that both songs. She lives in a house, in a house is kind of the opening kind of standard there. But yeah, there's just a nice kind of variation as well where it's like, she's my black market baby, she's my baby, which is very like Waits doesn't really sing that way.
It's very ethereal, isn't it? Yeah. Like it's like a breathless duet with himself. I mean, that you've already spoken about the guitar tone, but it's so whiny, but in a good way. Oh yeah, this isn't a bad track.
This is a good song. This is a good song. This isn't a song we're gonna like go raving about. But I've got to say, thinking about this song now, it does work very well. And I kind of wish it was a Reed solo. I don't like the guitar solo in this. It's a bit over the top for me. It's Mark Ribot, and the tone isn't very good. The sound of this song, Black Market Baby, is awesome. You were saying earlier, putting it on the vinyl, it really does work. But that guitar sound, it just feels very scooped. It feels very boss pedaled to me.
When he was talking to Rip Rents, there's only literally one quote about this song on the entire internet. So, Waits says, Kathleen came home with Black Market Baby. She had almost finished it. She says, she's my Black Market Baby. She's my Black Market Baby. She's a diamond that wants to stay cold. And I thought she said cold. And actually, a lot of people that I've read about this in reviews and stuff have like said that's the lyric, but it's not. And Waits says, that was the minute that she said that. It was finished. I just kind of filled it in, and it does feel like a very, very much like a Kathleen song. It does have a lot of story to it. We've spoken about her being a script editor. A lot of her tracks do have just this A, B, C, beginning, middle, and end to them, and yeah, it's. I can't really say that many positive things about it because it is what it is. It's slick but filthy. It's got that great little. It's either like a bell ringing or someone just smashing a piece of iron that gives it this great tense atmosphere. And I just on a little side note, I'm very infatuated with the way he pronounces Missouri as Missouri.
Yeah.
Which just reminds me of things like House of Cards and that sort of pronunciation.
Yeah, I
flat.
think lyrically, the parts of this song are outstanding, like truly outstanding, especially in the second verse when he's describing her. There's no prayer like desire, there's amnesia in her kiss, which is beautiful. Just the way the lust for her just kind of robs you of any sense of anything else. She's a swan and a pistol, which is classic. And then obviously the president ran up quite a bill, which is kind of a funny thing on the end of it. But yeah, for me though, I couldn't call this one of the greats because it's in that kind of slimy, kind of comfortable movement that Waits can do really well. We kind of see it better in Chocolate Jesus, which has a similar skeleton to this song. This is the time on a song, this is the time on an album when we get a Cemetery Polka or a Straight to the Top Vegas. Like, we don't, this song's a little too normal for Waits.
You know, the problem with this song is that it's on Mule Variations. You know what I mean? Like, this could be there with Buzz Flederjohn. You know,
it's better than Buzz Flederjohn.
But I mean, I think it's better than Hold On, definitely.
It's better than Hold On, yeah.
And another problem is that it's followed by a fucking phenomenal track.
Well, keep in mind this was a song that, did Jeff say he wanted this song off the album? In our email at the start, I believe he did.
Eyeball Kid.
Eyeball Kid, Sam.
Why would you want to take Eyeball Kid off? Like, it's funny how you should mention that you kind of revisited Black Baby with new eyes. Like, not that I ever thought that Eyeball Kid was anything below even a 7 out of 10, but recently it's just kind of shot up in my books. Like, it shares this great kinship with Step Right Up, you know, like highlighting the abuse, the exploitation, traps, follies, and temptations of the showbiz world. Yeah. Like Tom knows how, like, you know, whenever someone gets big, you've got to have a manager. It's what it's all about.
Yeah.
And it's just like this poor Eyeball Kid. And just to get one thing out of the way, anyone who claims to know what the opening line is without having to look it up is either a savant or a liar. It is unintelligible. It's like, what?
Well, they're the name of Eyeball Kid's parents, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's just totally unintelligible to me. But there are so many other elements in this song that take it above the average sort of creepy Waits song. Like, you've got this almost porn star bargain hunt auctioneer bidding war bit in the middle of and like these poor people this poor Eyeball Kid is just being pulled back and forth by these different influences who are all trying to exploit him. And I wonder who Tom's singing about there. Could this be actually an autobiographical Tom Waits piece? Could Tom be the Eyeball Kid? Come on, I think we know he is. Quite ironically, Tom doesn't remember in one of the interviews. I can't remember which one it is, but Tom doesn't remember that the Eyeball Kid is actually in Such a Scream off Bone Machine.
Yes, he is.
Paleface said to the Eyeball Kid, she just goes clank and boom and steam. It's, oh my god, this poor little monster thing. Like, because I know last week we said, a fortnight ago, we said that Lucky Day Overture would probably be Carl Pilkington's favourite Tom Waits song. But this one would definitely take away the prize. Like, people have drawn the Eyeball Kid before. Like, you know, if you type in Eyeball Kid images on Google, you'll find essentially people have drawn the Tom Waits suit and hat, but with like an eyeball for a head. But if you listen to the song, no, it's not that. He's literally just an eyeball. It's this really freaky image.
It's the perfect,
and, like, you know,
it's a perfect metaphor, isn't it, for kind of the freak show? What's the biggest freakism of all? The crowd. And what are the crowd? They're just this big eye gobbling whatever's in front of them.
Like, you get that through like the tribal chanting, that and then he goes like towards the end, and he kind of hints at this like primordial fascination.
Hail.
with the freak. Yeah, hail. Thousands of years ago, the Eyeball Kid could have been a god. But now he's been brought down low into Hollywood.
Well, now people are paying a couple of quid. It's interesting to hear Waits say quid.
Say quid, yeah. It's great.
Obviously, British slang for money in general, isn't it? A quid's a pound, isn't it, really? Give someone a quid.
Throw me down a couple of quid.
A couple of quid.
Maybe it's hinting at, like, they're like a travelling freak show, perhaps. Like, you know, they've come from America.
I love how, like, when he asks for your money, so he's like, give me some money, and then he explains kind of the philosophy of the Eyeball Kid, and it's quite demented. It's basically, so like you say, it's just an eye. They say, how does he dream? How does he think? when he can't even speak and he can't even blink. We're all lost in the wilderness. We're blind as he. He came down to teach us to how really to see. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Praised
it's such a depressing song when you
it's fantastic. But I must contest with you a little bit. We're saying Waits is Eyeball Kid. I don't know if you saw Waits interview Jonathan Valania, which we've quoted from extensively, the Man Who Howled Wolf, great article from Magnet. And basically, he says, I noticed that Eyeball Kid has the same birthday as you, as Tom Waits. And Tom Waits says, just a coincidence, the Eyeball Kid is a comic book character. Actually, it was Nick Cage that reintroduced me to comic books. I hadn't thought about comic books since I was a little kid, but he seemed to carry that mythology with him. It was inspiring to see him keep alive some of those principles that we associate with childhood, to the point where he named himself after Cage, the comic book hero. But I was trying to imagine that if it would be for a person with an enormous eyeball for a head to be in show business, if Barnum and Bailey were still around, I imagine he would have thrown in with them. The tour would have been sponsored by Visine or Bashuk and Lom. It's a metaphor for people that get into show business because they usually have some kind of family disturbance or are deranged in some way. I had a manager when I was a kid. I threw in with a guy named Herbie Cohen, see earlier down in the whole episodes, who worked with...
For our opinions on that asshole.
Fuck that guy.
Fuck you, Herbie Cohen. I hope you listen, you twat.
Who worked...
Release 5 more Tom Waits compilation albums. Go on, do it. I dare you. Make a little bit more, Herbie.
Who worked with Zappa, sorry, and he basically, Waits concludes, I wanted a big bruiser, the tough guy in the neighbourhood, and I got it. So yeah, Eyeball Kid kind of is an actual existing character. I don't know if people are aware of this. He's a comic book character, basically, that his son was a fan of. But it was more Waits heard the name. The actual Eyeball Kid character, if you look him up, is slightly different. It's not an eyeball. It's not a freak show.
Does he cameo in Batman vs Superman: Dawn of Justice? I think
he's a Dark Horse character, which is a much more minor than DC. Just to date this episode, by the way, Dawn of Justice has just come out, hasn't it, Sam? So not that we're going to really review it, but we'll just an interesting tip.
We had some contrasting opinions on it, but yeah,
we have. But Eyeball Kid basically exists, as that, basically as a kind of just name for Waits to kind of, jump on, and it wasn't, people didn't really kind of see it as his homage to the comic book, but that is where it did come from, and it's made an incredible song. I mean, just the story, and I love how he has to sign for his contract by crying on the dotted line.
I was like, it was climb right here on the dotted line, like maybe he's just literally a tiny eyeball, but I kind of see him as half the size of a soccer ball. That's more for our universal audience. Yeah. When he was in Exclaim magazine talking to Michael Barkley, he says, most of us in some form or another are fascinated with anything that makes us different. Most of us from one time have felt that we can relate in some way on a certain level, whether it's internal or external. Obviously, I'm making light of something on Eyeball Kid, and I hope it's not at anybody's expense, because obviously there are loads of people who are just eyeballs in the world. But there are people with physical deformities, and I'm not poking fun at that at all. I'm just taking the idea of show business to a ridiculous place. It's really more autobiographical than anything else. So yeah, Tom, 2 completely different reasons as to where the song came from. It's weird how you should mention Herbie Cohen, the manager, because I find it interesting that he gets him out of prison. He gets the Eyeball Kid out of prison, so he owes him something.
Yes,
and
Saigon jail, right?
Yeah, he is again another Oriental prison. That's I love that. How did the Eyeball Kid get to Saigon? But yeah, we haven't spoken much about the music, but there's a great bell in it, and the percussion is so off the wall and weird. I don't even know what's being played. I don't know what's going on. Which track is this? This is the 10th track. I'm just on the Wikipedia. I can't find any. Oh, hang on. Oh, it's just a turntable sample.
Oh,
mostly,
DJ Ill Media, yeah.
According to this. Oh, and yeah, that's about it. It's just a bunch of weird sounds, isn't it? It does build up into a song that's kind of with a real drive to it. But the thing that annoys me is, as I mentioned earlier, it does do that Tom Waits thing of taking the song in a different direction that I'm really excited about. Like he goes, how does he dream? How does he think? And he goes, when he can't even speak, and he gets a bit faster, and he goes, and he goes, boom. Eyeball Kid, and he goes back into the old song. Like, oh no, couldn't you have gone mad? Couldn't you have took this on a real runaway train? And that really would make it the perfect song for me, and it keeps it back at an 8.5 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. He's not conventionally handsome. He'll never be tall,
Again, Tom, you're not that ugly, mate. Really?
I
You're not that bad looking.
just see the eye. I understand the Tom metaphor, but I'm just seeing the eye. But it's funny you mention that because Tom Waits Library talk about the tour, the Mule Variations tour, and apparently Waits in their eyes is the eyeball kid made good, an archetypal rock eccentric. During the Mule tour, the eyeball kid was the highlight of his shows. The song was mostly used as a chance to showcase each of the individual band members. Waits would wear a hat with metallic reflectors that caught the light and set bright beams out of his head, careening over the theatre ceiling, as if his skull was exploding in illumination. The audience loved it, and so did Waits. No footage of that so far. Yeah.
Well, we do have footage for... Is it the next... Oh, no, it's not the next song. It's a couple of songs away. But first, we do have to get into Picture in a Frame, which is one of the simplest yet most affecting love songs Tom's probably ever wrote. Like, the earnestness of this song is so clear and pure. And it reeks of post-Brennan sentimentality that Waits was cultivating around this time. I like Picture in a Frame. I didn't at first. I thought it was quite boring and a bit too lovey-dovey. But going back, like, yep, the lyrics aren't that complicated. Yep, the piano doesn't really go anywhere that crazy. But it's just, even his voice is perfect. It almost reminds me of that album for kids that the Bare Naked Ladies did. It's almost like a nursery rhyme. This could be sung to sing a kid to sleep, and just the idea of a relationship and the eternal feelings of joy that go with said relationship being sealed with something as simple as putting a picture in a frame is so classically and plainly romantic. And I'm glad that Tom hasn't left One from the Heart totally behind. And he puts that kind of Hollywood romanticism into a song like this. It's great, isn't it?
It's unbelievable. First of all, the juxtaposition coming out of Eyeball Kid into Picture of Frame has always been a funny movement for me.
There's a lot of that in
yeah, there is actually. There's a lot of kind of right hand turns, and they
nothing quite as big as going from Revolution 9 into Good Night at the end of the White Album, which is probably the greatest musical shift in history. But yeah, Tom really keeps us on our toes in this.
Yeah, totally. And the creaking chair and that kind of, he does it in Take It With Me as well. The kind of just flourish of notes at the start, a little wonderful little motif, and then we go into the chords. Beautiful. And as Tom begins to sing, the bass becomes subtly underpinning the root a little bit more here and there, doing what it can. But yeah, there's something gorgeous about this song. To say this song isn't an oldie kind of Coney Island Baby kind of Waits track, it is that sort of song. But I adore this track. I think this track is unbelievable. I love the gospel patterning of it. The repeat, picture in the frame, repeat. Like, that's just a really nourishing. I mean, Cold Waters does this as well, but Tom's just constantly digging deep into these rhythmic ideas and just coming up with gold and blue. Like, I just think it's amazing. And the idea that it's not love at first sight, that it's love at when there's
first picture.
Yeah, I don't really know how to put it, but you know what I mean. Love at kind of like confirmation of relationship and knowing you're one another's, and the song sounds old fashioned. The idea of putting no one our days put your picture in the frame. I bet no one in 1999 did much really. It's very much a kind of older time kind of thing to do, and Waits embellishes that with I'm gonna love you till the wheels come off, which kind of, it's a bit like Drive My Car and Rubber Soul. Like, it feels dirty, and it probably is dirty, but it's kind of clean as well. It kind of works on both levels,
Well, the idea of the picture in a frame could also have a bit of a sadder connotation, because with a KBCO interview with Waits in Los Angeles, he says, like, oh yeah, it's an old jailhouse expression, and it means you have your wheels looked at regularly.
Oh.
And just the idea that perhaps maybe there's a guy who's gone to prison and he's got a picture in a frame, and only now does he realise how much he loved this person, and maybe he probably didn't treat them right, perhaps, and now
I think
he could have lost them.
Maybe. I don't know if the prison origins like affect the song per se. There's just a lot of beauty here. Like, I think Tom's rhythmic playing is top notch as well, because obviously you have Ralph Carney's gorgeous alto sax refraining in between and doing a really nice solo at the end, and Tom's just underneath. You can hear him marking out certain sections.
Was Ralph Carney in your top most influential Waitsian backing?
I don't think he was, and I was thinking to do another one of those. Check out TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com, by the way, which is an article I did quite a while ago, like my favourite backing musicians of Waits. Talk about Fred Tackett and Mark Ribot and Ronnie Barron and people like that. But maybe it's worth doing another one, because there are a lot, like Charles Musselwhite, for example, who features on a lot of these songs. I think is unbelievable. Smokey O'Mell as well. But yeah, it's just, it's such a classy piece, isn't it? Picture in a Frame. It's very Orphans Ballers-esque. It doesn't really outstay its welcome. It's got a very satisfying message to it. There's no kind of, it's very black and white, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, even Waits himself just calls it a simple song in it, and it is. It's just it's a typically him and Kathleen one, and you know they had fun writing it together. But I think we should move to a more irreverent song now, which begins the sort of quartet of religious songs.
Yes,
really.
yes. Although he does go in his Sunday best in Picture in a Frame. But,
yeah, he does actually.
But I mean, that doesn't say, you know, it's not religious per se, is it? I suppose, but yeah,
he could be going anywhere. Yeah. Another fan favourite. This is everyone loves this song, don't they? I mean, who doesn't know all the words to this track? And it's sing-alongable, but you know, this is the most viewed Tom Waits song on YouTube, so that says something about it. And just the way he talks about it, like the Immaculate Confection, which obviously we went to a Catholic school. We know what the Immaculate Conception was. It's the fact that Jesus was born to a virgin, apparently. But it comes from like his dad found something called Testament, which is again like there are so many good puns coming out of this song. But yeah, this is a fantastic. It's a slow little ditty. You know, it casually rests in your ears. You know, Waits is trying to sell us something here, and it couldn't be too great.
Is this better to you than Jesus Gonna Be Here?
I might put them level because they're kind of the same song in a way. Oh my god! I see. I do listen to Jesus Is Gonna Be Here more just because I love that bow wow. But you know, this is a love child of like Step Right Up meets Way Down in the Hole, really, isn't it? Like he's selling us Jesus again, but this time it's a bit more irreverent, really. Like
incredibly irreverent.
Pokes fun a bit of religion, you know, whether he's legitimately trying to sell us the idea of a chocolate Jesus, or is it just the plain and simple? He's mocking the grand commercialization of religion. You know, we don't really have that in this country, but when we look to America and we see these preachers with like jets and they're on TV and it says like don't donate now, like I think this is what he's taking the piss out of.
The televangelists.
Like, the fact that there could be a sweet that would be a substitute for going to church for the faithful, like he's just mocking laziness, really. A sort
of obesity jab in there as well, kind of under the shirt. Like,
it's like a carrot Jesus, a carrot stick Jesus.
Each of the songs, a lot of the interviews that Waits has had have commented on the rooster, the cockcrow that can be heard throughout the song.
There's about like 15 quotes about this damn rooster.
Rip Rents, who's a good friend of the show by now, the amount this interview, brilliant interview. He says, "Who plays the rooster on Chocolate Jesus?" And Tom says, "That's a real rooster." And Rip says, "Yeah, but he was crowing right on cue." And Tom says, "He was crowing on cue. You know one thing about animals, when you record outside, they pretty much wait till you're finished with your phrase, because no one wants to talk while you're talking, especially a rooster." And Tom also says in the Austin Chronicle, "Well, hey, a rooster will never crow when you're crowing. They wait till there's some clean air. They wait till you're done, and then you get the best spot," which I found about recording outside. Most people are afraid to record outside because they're going to have too many collisions with the natural world. But I've found that if you go outside, everything collaborates with you, including airplanes and movies. They make movies outside. You have to wait sometimes for a train to pass, for a school to let out, or whatever. Dogs, kids, trains, cars, planes, and chickens will kind of find their own place if you do go outside. So, I mean, there is that incorporation, which is...
Edna Gunderson asks him, was the rooster paid? And Tom goes, "He was not. He's just transient. But I paid him in one form. He's still alive." And now, of course, he's considered a big shot in the barnyard. You can't even approach the guy. You know, at the start of the song, do you hear that little, like... I love it.
Yes, like isn't that Charles?
And... yeah, Charles Musselwhite, and Waits just says he's talking to Blues Review magazine, issue 59 apparently, and he says on Chocolate Jesus, just before the songs, you can hear him saying, "I love it" into the mic, and he says that's his favourite part of the song, and I do get what he means there. Just like it's another one of those. What was the track last episode where there was like a telephone call in the background?
Yeah, it was like Orchestra Train or something like that. I can't quite remember, but yeah. Gospel Train, the orchestra version.
So Oh, actually, there's also a reference to a character we haven't spoken about since Swordfish Trombones, and that's Captain Beefheart.
Yes.
I don't want no Abba Zabba. And Abba Zabba's the only commercial song Captain Beefheart has ever put out, and it's the one that anyone who kind of, say if you were to put on it's Mother's Milk, I believe, is the first album from Captain Beefheart, and Abba Zabba's the only song that you can tolerate if you're not a Tom Waits fan, like, because it is just so weird, and it's just got this lovely sort of dum 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 dum, and you can definitely see where Waits comes from, and it's just nice to see him throw Beefheart a little bone, really, because Beefheart was going way before Waits, but Tom did kind of just emerge out of the mire to be a much more popular figure.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a vinyl shop in Coventry recently during a chocolate fair,
Right.
and there was these Tom Waits albums, and they were all going for cheap. And then there was one Captain Beefheart, which was the Fishmask one, £112, which is
replica,
which that would be about $165, something like that. It's like, wow, like, yes, Waits got more popular, but this Beefheart guy, like you can see the reverence for him.
He's a huge figure. Yeah, he's huge. But yeah, it's a fantastic song. The interplay of Muscle White with the other instruments, just they weave and dance amongst each other. It's fantastic, and Tom's delivery is outstanding, and like you say, throughout with brilliant puns. I like Saviour and Cellophane is a nice kind of partial rhyme here. He flows like the Big Muddy, but that's okay, and it is
parfait,
slightly offensive, I suppose. But this is one of the simpler songs on the album, like Cold Water, in its kind of throwback tribute to older song structures. This is a fantastic song. This is a song that I really can't get enough of.
The childlike inventiveness of the song is rather staggering, but I also love that little light tap of the tambourine, and it's so different to the rest of the album's percussion. It's just literally, and there's nothing more to it. You're so right. It really is simple. You've got the unobtrusive little plucking of the banjo. Some of Waits' best banjo playing on any of his records.
Definitely.
I find it quite annoying and stereotypical a lot of the time, but here it fits perfectly.
Oh, he's great. Yeah, he stands out.
I love how chocolate is this ultimate form of temptation. Like, we know Waits has played the devil before, so is he trying to trick us again? and then we got the blues harp again that screeches like car brakes and wails like a banshee.
It's gorgeous.
And I love the idea of Zerelda Lee's Candy Store. It's another, like, Waits walked past a shop called Zerelda Lee's, like, I gotta write that down.
And lots of references to the chocolate, which we as Brits kind of went over my head. And here's for anyone else who isn't American or just
Almond Joy.
There's actually Abba Zaba, which is American classic retro candy bar. There is Almond Joy, which is another retro chocolate snack manufactured by Hershey Companies. And we also have Cup of Gold, which was these are all kind of around the 1950s, and Cup of Gold was once among the top 3 selling candies in California, but was retired for a while, and despite its resurgence, now suffers from generation gap awareness. So there's that layer to it. There's your dad's chocolate bars, there's your chocolate bars, there's America's chocolate bars. If he was to reference Boosts and Lions and caramels, we would get those references more, and I'm sure.
Could you imagine Tom Waits singing about Twixies and Mars
break
bars?
My heart. But supposedly as well, much like a song like Hold On we were referencing earlier, Jesus Loves Me is from another kind of spiritual song, and just kind of like, for the Bible tells me so, little ones to him belong, they are weak but he's strong. Jesus loves me, let his child come in. Jesus loves me, the Bible tells me, blah blah. That sort of track, and that is meant to be another possible influence for the track as well.
So just to we'll end this song with Tom's own words as to where this song comes from. He actually goes into a little bit more detail in this on the VH1 thing. Sorry about that we keep talking about VH1.
Check the YouTube channel. Check the YouTube channel.
Check it soon. Yeah, we'll probably record it in a couple of days. I imagine. He's talking to Rip Rents. My father-in-law was trying to get me interested in this business venture, these things called testaments. They're these little lozenges with little crosses on them. If you're on the road or something and you can't worship, or if you're, in the way you're accustomed to, or if it's during the week, you can just have a little testament, and it's kind of to get you right in touch with the higher power. So we just kind of took it a step further. You've got your testaments. Why not a chocolate Jesus? Melts in your mouth, not your hand. It's kind of direct. Drink this in remembrance of me. Someone might think it's blasphemous, but it's actually a kind of a grassroots spirituality. And yeah, in religion, you know, especially the Christian faith, there is a lot of eating Jesus. So it's not that actually, you know, with the host and stuff. So it's not actually that an odd image when you actually think about it. And it's just him taking it to an absurd comedic level, which is always satisfying, isn't it? Oh, the next song's so sad.
This next song's troubling, and this next song's always troubled me. It's a beautiful song, Georgia Lee. It's another sensationally depressing song, I must add as well. The chorus is very blunt, but very honest. You know, why wasn't God watching, etc. There's just constant questioning. It's beautiful. Really doesn't tell you a lot about the kind of motives for the characters, so it's hard to kind of relate, but you're being forced along this very depressing path, and kind of the chorus confirms what the later verses, you know, cement, that Georgia was killed. And Tom was talking to Robert Lloyd, this is for LA Weekly, in an article from April 23rd 1999, and Robert says, driving me back to my hotel in the big black Silverado he calls, waits, today at least, all reliable. He detours to a flower-bedecked makeshift roadside shrine dedicated to the memory of 12-year-old Georgia Lee Moses, the subject of Georgia Lee, a lilting Irishy lullaby on Mule Variations. It's a good spot, he says as we pull over to a grassy plot of trees and brush by a freeway on-ramp. She'd run away from home, been missing for like a week. I guess that is where they found her body. He takes a plastic point-and-click camera from his pocket, shoots a picture. Not to make it a racial matter, but it was one of those things where, you know, she's a black kid, and when it comes to missing children and unsolved crimes, a lot of it has to do with timing or publicity, and there was this whole poly-class foundation up here, while Georgia Lee did not get any real attention. And I waited to write a song about it. At one point, I wasn't going to put it on the record, there were too many songs. My daughter said, gee, that would be really sad. She gets killed and not remembered, and someone writes a song about it and doesn't put it on the record. I didn't want to be part of that. So, I mean...
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
Yeah, I did not realise that Georgia Lee was, you know, founded in such real, horrific circumstances. For all this time, up until 2 weeks ago, it had just been, you know, a very depressing song and a great song, but not one with such truth behind it. And not knowing that Waits had purposely written this for her, it just adds to it, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. And this is not the first time Waits has sung about the tragic death of a black person, is it? This is a very less showy version of Small Change,
yeah.
You know, like the real world ramifications of a song like this really had a profound effect on the singer, and Waits really does sound like he's almost on the brink of tears in this song. It's like, can you tell? Even our tone is sort of like respectfully lowered a little.
Not for long,
but like it, you know. But like the song just points out, like it doesn't like hate religion. It's not hateful. It just challenges the idea of faith. Like, it's so stupid. Like, think that God's gonna save someone, pure of heart or not. It just questions it. Why wasn't God watching? Why wasn't God there? Why not? Why not? And it does it in such a way that you can't justify the death of Georgia Lee at all in terms of faith. It's a real complicated song. But to anyone who listened to our review of Bone Machine may remember that I actually referred to A Little Rain as Georgia Lee 0.5. But after further thought, a more interesting comparison would be this song and On the Nickel from Heart Attack and Vine. That song, written by, you know, a much younger, again, romanticised Waits. He does he bigs up the idea of runaway children. And now in Georgia Lee, he turns this on his head, because now he's older and a father in his own right. The thought of like anyone's little girl running away clearly like just shreds his heart apart. And like, it's so great how he doesn't have to sing about his own kids. He's just perfectly adopting the character of someone else who has lost their poor child, and it's all over now, and there's nothing they can do. The piano feels like it's in the room with you as well. Like, you can hear the creak on the foot pedals and stuff. And like, I think it's so fitting that Waits has now moved from like the sort of flatter stage piano to what sounds like an ancient Babylonian upright grand piano. Like, the resonance of it just fits the song's subject matter and the more mature Waits perfectly.
It does. It's a really earthy, well thought out ballad. A far more cynical attack on religion to the flip side of Chocolate Jesus, which is a bit more jokey, but again, quite combative. But yeah, the pathetic chorus in the sense that he's asking on his knees, you know, why wasn't he watching? For me, ultimately, it's that bridge that really just breaks my heart when he kind of like regresses to a childlike form to play with Georgia, or to play with the idea of innocence. Close your eyes and count to 10. I will go and hide, but then, and just that be sure to find, that really kind of emotive, stretchy way of singing will play all over again.
And they did find her.
They did, and then the third verse, as I hinted at earlier in the podcast, is just kind of more of an evocation of the world around. There's a toad in the witchgrass, there's a crow in the corn, so it is quite mystical, Mule Variations, Sororo kind of world, and as sure as the hills are turning from black to gold, so the sun wasn't blue and gold, the green is going back to gold, but effectively there is a sense of seasonal change, inevitability, and somewhere amongst this, a baby is crying for a mom, just as Georgia Lee perhaps one day was, or was going to be. There is just this sense that it's inescapable, and that just compounds the sense of dejection this song gives, even though it is wonderfully beautiful as well.
I believe her, just to close, her real name was Georgia Moses.
Yes.
And if you go on the Tom Waits library, there are some fantastic photographs of the memorial that's there to this day. 1985 to 1997, so she was only fucking 12 years old, man.
It's
depressing.
It is horrible, and we actually have a little excerpt of that article here. Basically, this is George Snyder writing in the Chronicle, Santa Rosa, reporting on the thing. With subdued sniffles and periodic wiping of eyes, a diverse audience gathered yesterday at Santa Rosa's Community Baptist Church to give slain 12-year-old Georgia Moses the attention she never got in real life. This is Georgia's day, said the Reverend James Coffey during the noon services, attending by about 200 people. This is probably one of the greatest days of her life, and she isn't here to share it with us. Those in attendance range from church and community members to the girl's family, the Sonoma County Sheriff, an aide to Congressman Lynn Woolsey, an actor-singer Tom Waits, a West Sonoma County resident who sat quietly at the rear of the crowded church. Oh. So Tom was there, and this clearly affected him deeply, and he wrote this beautiful, beautiful song, and there's just such heavy lyrics that really kind of stick with you. These children are so hard to raise good. He's dealing in quite broad things here. Ida, Georgia, the use of names, the only real use of names. There's no kind of town around here. He isn't naming it, even though he's giving her name. That kind of personalising it. It's not kind of, if you name it after a town, it just seems to generalise it a bit more. But the fact that it's just personally addressed to this person is troubling, very troubling, and it's a very affecting song. It's a beautiful, beautiful track.
And it brings you down to this really low, self-reflective, solemn mood, and then bam, next song is going to hit you with some madness. Oh my! This is again one of the most jarring tonal shifts on a Tom Waits record. He pulls the rug out from under your feet here, and Tom is screaming raw on this one. Filipina Box Spring Hog is a force to be reckoned with. He's clearly having so much fun recording it as well, and it reflects the jolly nature of this local community cookout party. As long as you're a local there, though, because there is this kind of, it does relish in the dirty fuck you aspects of country lifestyle, not giving a hoot what the neighbour says. Kathleen's in the bra, chained up dogs, and this is such a heavy song. If you thought Big in Japan was a big, thrumpy, heavy rock song, then sit back.
Yeah, this is huge.
This is incredible.
It's a fantastic stomp. But yet again, Tom, it really surprises me because he's able to command such a melodic performance and delivery in this song, even though it's so percussive. It's quite a hard rhythm to sing around, but he just has this command on the track. And obviously, a Filipino box spring hog is it's a bit of a wild thing, isn't it? It's a really interesting name, and he was being interviewed on KCRW FM. This is by Chris Duridas in 1998, and Tom would say on this song, "In my old neighbourhood, we used to have rent parties. If you couldn't make the rent, so they'd have a big festival out in the alley and cook a pig and invite a lot of people and charge them money, of course, but most people brought something too. So they'd dig a big pit and then cook a big pig, and there's 200 people there, and they're out in the alley. But I was staying in this place where I had a mean landlord, and everyone hated the landlord, and we were going to have wasn't any point in having the rent party because you'd already been evicted, and so someone got the idea that we'd have this big barbecue. We'd have it in the house. So they sawed all the floorboards out of the living room and dug a hole in the living room and put the box springs of a mattress down there, and underneath the box springs there was a load of madron and eucalyptus, and then we put the pig on top of the box springs, and we had this big barbecue. It was memorable. Everyone's still talking about it. So anyway, this is about that. It was an outtake, and then it wound up on something else, some compilation record that came out. It was an outtake from Bone Machine. So
well, it's interesting that you should mention that, because it was part of the Bone Machine sessions, and it's, like all of his outtakes, it's wormed its way onto YouTube and the internet. And while there are minor lyrical differences, such as like old John Booker and Jack the Queer bought Rabbit in a crawfish bag, 4 and 20 blackbirds baked in a pie. Like, it's like the song still works, but either way, I'm glad that he did shelve it, because it really doesn't sound like the fun song that we know today. It's a little more stripped back, slower, and a bit more. It feels like a bike with square wheels. It's just a bit ba-boom, ba-boom. But the thing that we get now is just like this guttural drumming, again keeping that Tin Pan Alley feel, but with a more of an apocalyptic Bone Machine feel to it. So again, it does feel like it is from that last album, but it's just been updated to a more mature Waits. Like, I love it when you can hear the slapping sounds when he says, "We gotta slap that hog," and you hear, and he's literally smacking this pig's ass as it's being basted. And you have to baste it with a sweeping broom, which is such a great image. Like someone's getting a broom, sticking it in a bucket full of like grease and spices, and just
it drives people mad. This hog, it's brilliant. Yeah, the imagery, and like when he sings "Box Spring Hog," and like sometimes like a guitar leaps out. And sometimes like a wow, like a wah just behind the chorus, like, and it
you never get the same guitar thing.
No, you don't. It is constant. There's constant ingredients being thrown in, and like he pronounces Dirt Alley Road as Dirt Alley Road, like it's like one word. He just kind of hawks it out.
Tain't the mincemeat filigree, and it tain't the turkey neck stew. This song's brilliant. Jesus Christ, I can always make room. Yeah, like this is probably the this breaks the sort of religious quartet at the end.
It is weird,
except for that little. But like, yeah, this is like a lack of God. This is
hedonism, isn't it? It's finding salvation in flavour and revelry. Waits was interviewed on that same interview I was speaking about, but 7 years earlier. Speaking about Filipino boxing, and he said that some songs you work on them for months and they'll never make the journey. It's in Bone Machine, has just been released, by the way. They'll be left behind and someone has to break the news. We had a lot. We had one called Filipino Box Spring Hog. It was a song about this old neighbourhood ritual, and the song didn't make it on the record. It broke my heart, but it just couldn't come. It was good. Maybe it'll come out as something else. It was a song about kind of like jambalaya, crawfish pie, filet gumbo. So again, it's playing into that idea of just kind of like, mixing up a stew. There's no other reasoning here. It doesn't really make sense on Bone Machine, does it? It seems too happy.
In Exclaim magazine, Michael Barclay makes a fallacy, because we pointed out that it's on Night on Earth where we get the first hint of Kathleen, isn't it? He mentions Kathleen. Oh, and then there's Brennan's Glenn
on Black Rider,
on the Black Rider as well. But he says the new song Filipino Box Spring Hog is the first time you've used your wife's name Kathleen in one of your songs, isn't it? Tom Waits says, "Yeah," she said, "Gee, thanks a lot. You finally stick me in a song and I'm sitting in my bra and you're there with a dog tied to the stool. It's a nice family portrait. I had to do some explaining, but eventually she got a kick out of it." I also there's also another thing, like an interviewer, I think it was the same guy, asked him, so how's your wife listen to Better Off Without a Wife? And he just goes, "It's not a popular song in our house."
She's mentioned, funnily enough, being in Little Rent Recovery Room, which is an actual restaurant, and I found a review from it from the New York Times. So basically they say about this restaurant, Red's Recovery Room, immortalised in a Crop Duster song, also mentioned in Tom Waits' Filipino Box Spring Hog, and hailed by a little newspaper called the New York Times as, quote, the second best bar in the world. Red's Recovery Room is a divey little shack, but for those who frequent it know that the Times is right, and they know Dee, the bartender. She's worked at Red's for over 25 years and tells true stories that the best fiction writers would envy. Swearing like a sailor, she drinks right along with you, screwing up your drink in your favour by making it too strong, and plays ferocious pool. So yeah, just a little bit of Red's there, which is still around, so it's great that Tom just immortalised it in that track. I mean, they say in a Crop Duster song, who the hell a Crop Duster? It's a Waits track, But and there was a good interview actually, because this song is so rhythmic, isn't it? There's so much smashing and thrashing going on in this track. It's fucking fantastic. But Barney asked Tom, "Is there any reason why you're playing so much less percussion on Mule than you did on Bone Machine?" So obviously, I guess Bone Machine was on Mule, so it's going to have more percussion like that. And he says, "Gee, I don't know. You've stumped me. Is that a true or false question? I don't know. When you're producing a record and you're also producing it yourself, a lot of people divide those jobs. You have to decide what your role is going to be. You farm or subcontract the rest of the job. I don't always do my own electrical work at home. I usually hire an expert, so we hire professional musicians, and I don't know if I can honestly consider myself as part of that group. I'm like the creator of forms, sometimes get in my own way. The main thing is to have people working with you that you succumb to the power of suggestion, which is, kind of true for a lot of Mule. The whole thing is kind of a hypnotic experience, and when you say you want the musicians to play like their hair is on fire, you want someone who understands what that means. Sometimes that requires a very particular person you have a shorthand with over time, and the drums on Filipino are just... totemic.
Again, it does have that somewhat eyeball kid tribalness to it. Again, this is the apocalypse, we could say, and there is very little sort of electronic percussion on this. It's just people banging on shit. It is, again, like big in Japan. It's just got that weird sort of banging on the drawers and wall stuff. This though is very much like you can hear the animal skins, almost like the pig skin. It's just it just bangs and it assaults you. It really is an attack on the listener, and like you want to think that the people in the song are enjoying the party, but it's not somewhere where you'd want to be. It sounds dangerous.
It does, and there's mention at the in the final bit of turkey neck stew, which according to Tom Waits' library is smothered turkey necks in onion gravy. Turkey neck stew or gumbo is often served at large gatherings such as Mardi Gras parties in Louisiana. The reason is simple. First, the meat is inexpensive and quite flavourful, but more important, there's a lot of meat on those turkey necks, so they're good for a large crowd, and the flavour mimics beef, veal, pork and chicken. So dig in. But again, we move out of that kind of slightly irreligious, slightly paganistic song into something that's a lot more spiritual. Sam, take it with me.
You've mentioned this song a lot in our past.
I have.
I'm not sure if you want me to bring this up on air.
Well, why not?
You said that this would be the song you'd want to play at your funeral, and I totally get what you mean by that. This is a requiem for the album. Like he's done all this crazy stuff so far, and it's literally just him and Larry Taylor on bass, I believe, in a hotel room, and they just bashed out this wonderful song, and it's up there with Johnsburg, Illinois, for me in terms of just the all-time greatest Waitsian love songs. It's simple. There's very little bells and whistles to it. It's also a song that I try to impersonate a lot whenever I've got a little hoarse throat. I was going to go like that. It's because it's hard to do the soft Waits voice because it's still so gruff at the same time. But yeah, this is a song that can make me fall in love with my girlfriend all over again. Like I can't downplay how romantic this song is, and again, it's the little Waitsian minutiae that gives it its credence. And for all the deception in his public persona, his emotions here are very bare and true, and it just evokes the most intense faux nostalgia in pretty much any song I've ever heard. Really, is this his best song? A lot of people would say it is. A lot of people have a very
tough.
Big.
Yeah, that's tough.
People have an affinity for this.
People no, this song's very special. I'm not going to say it's not. I think it's damn near perfect as a song. It's not one of my favourite ever Tom Waits songs, but it's ridiculously good because. I mean, you say it's romantic. I don't know how romantic the song is. I guess the first stanza's romantic, but the rest isn't really. The rest is more about memory and just trying to accept that when you die, you aren't going to remember any of this. So it's kind of, Tom himself says, is this, it's got to be more than flesh and bone. And then accepting in the returning couplet that all that you've loved is all you own. Similar to the end with Paul McCartney, the love you make is the love you take, or something like that. Like, the only thing we can hold accountable is direct empirical experience, and that's the only confirmation we have. And that makes the song very depressing. And like Picture in a Frame, it opens with that, just opens with a little thing there. And Tom's coming in with, probably the most modern image is the first line, the phone's off the hook. The call to kind of like the technology, whereas the rest is kind of, and he's mixing it up. Like Jeff says, Jared says quite rightly, like, someone said earlier on in the interview, like strangers are singing on our lawn, like this kind of mixing in those John Cheever like images, like where just you put certain absurdities into suburbia to see what would happen, and Waits is playing with those conceptions throughout. And yet again, religious crops up. It's not necessarily Tom saying he knows what's going to happen after, but he accepts that when he goes, something different is going to happen, whether he retains them or not, which is, some people aren't willing to even admit that. So I suppose there's a certain agnosticism in this song, but it floors you.
Yeah. What exactly is he taking with him though? Is he taking the love of his wife and his family, or is it a reflection of Waits' own private nature? You know, he's letting us know that he will take certain facts and stories about him to the grave. You know, he will take these things with him, and we won't know everything. When he's talking to Rip Rents, he says, the old cliche, "You can't take it with you," isn't true. Listening to this, I realised that you can take a lot of stuff with you. We wanted to take the old expression, "You can't take it with you," and turn it on its ear. We figured that there's lots of things you can take with you when you go. We checked into a hotel room and moved the piano in there. We both like Elmer Bernstein a lot. My favourite line is Kathleen's. She said, "All that you love is all that you own." It's an old Tin Pan Alley song. And yeah, it's so simple and just
but
perfect, isn't it?
There's an odd irony though, isn't there? In confessing that nothing is going to go with him, he's making something that people will hold on to and allow him to live for centuries. In the same way that people still listen to, you know, the Beatles. I know that's not a century ago, but you know what I mean. Like, these songs keep getting revisited. So this is Tom's testament. You know, his whole career is, but kind of Take It With Me is acknowledgement of that. And he's been interviewed by Robert Lloyd in LA Weekly, and basically he asks quite a blunt question concerning the song. He just says to Tom, 95% of everything is temporary, and Tom says, "I'm okay with that, but it's nice to think that when you're making music and you bring it out, someone's going to pick it up, and who knows when or where. I listen to stuff that's 50 years old or older than that and bring it into myself, and so you are in a way having communion and fellowship with folks you have yet to meet, who will someday bring your record home, and you know, they're running a little lingerie shop down on Magnolia and put it on and bring it together with the sounds that they hear in their own head. It's nice to be part of the dismemberment of linear time," which is a very, very nice quote by Tom. But yeah, Take It With Me, it's you know, musically it's in that kind of pony, picture in a frame mold, almost House Where No One Lives kind of mold. And it's brilliant ballads on this album. This is just one of them. But I think lyrically it's asking a lot deeper questions than those songs, and it's kind of furrowing with you a lot longer than it maybe seems to at first.
I love it when Karen Schomer's interviewing him, and she writes, "I tell Waits that there's a piano ballad on his new album, Take It With Me, that makes me cry, mostly because of the last verse. In a land there's a town, in the town there's a house, in that house there's a woman, in the woman there's a heart I love, I want to take it with me when I go." He drops his head bashfully. "That's a very vulnerable song," he says. "We wrote that together, Kathleen and I, and that felt good. Two people who were in love writing a song about being in love." Then he puts two triangles of toast in front of his eyes because I'm crying just thinking about it, and maybe behind the toast he's tearing up too. So yeah, it's again, the mood has dropped a little, folks, and that's just because this song, it is so effective.
It is incredibly so, and Tom is, what I like about this song as well is it's full of references, outside references. So Tom says, "It's a long time since I drank champagne," which is the famous final words of Russian author Anton Chekhov. Those are his last words. Tom also makes reference to Beulah Land, which in the Bible, in Isaiah, is the land of Israel in the Old Testament, which is also known in the Pilgrim's Progress, Bunyan's Pilgrim's Progress, as the land of peace. So he mentions being on Beulah's porch. In Telephone Call from Istanbul, he says, "Follow me to Beulah on Dry Creek Road." And in Take Care of All of My Children, he says, "I'm going up to Beulah Land." In the chorus, that song is probably more recognisable there. But yeah, it's a powerful track. You know, every time I revisit it, it stabs me. You know, it affects me. It just feels very eternal.
Now, it's great that Tom doesn't end it on that sad note with Take It With Me. Instead, he gives us this rousing hymn to send us back into the world, and he can't let us end on such a sad note, and he comes in with this awesome little howl that's so Waitsian, and it coming up to the house, Tom. This is such a fantastic song.
Of course it is. Yeah, it
brings all the elements of the album together for one last hurrah. We've got the guitar, we've got the piano, we've got the blues harp, and we've got the great gruff Tom Waits voice. It's a great gospel track. You know, it's fun to picture this song being sung in some sort of Pentecostal church with Tom at the font, just getting everyone in. The religious image is very abstract, but the line that everyone remembers is "Come down off the cross, we can use the wood," which is such a great little ode to practicality and an ode to not being so self-loathing. And I think Tom could be accused of being maybe perhaps a little self-loathing in the past in some of his lyrics, but here he's just like saying, he's not even saying like he's not giving you answers. He's just saying just come inside, man, and we can talk. Like, you know, he's not giving you a magic silver bullet solution. And what the way he says, "The world is not my home. I'm just a passing through," it gives it that real Christ-like quality to it. Like, you know, he's just come down. Like, Tom, to me, has fucking descended from heaven, and like one day he will go. Like, he is just passing through this world. And the other line that really struck a chord with me was, "The only things you can see is all you lack."
Yeah,
and it's just so powerful.
it is.
And
He's preacher, isn't he? The Saints of Redemption in this song is throaty and powerful. You know.
Yeah, it's a great swan song for the
The
album.
blues harp searing it out with just a plum at the end, like the Joe Gore on guitar, by the way, not Mark Ribot. And yeah, just you know, when you first listen, it's almost like Anywhere I Lay My Head. Like when I first heard the song, I almost giggled because Tom's voice is kind of silly when you first encounter it, and it's similar on coming up to us. You're like, whoa, like this song is such a powerful, like just grabs you by the collar and just throws you up and down. Like, you know, it's just a ridiculous, and just like you say, lyrics just stick with you. Come off Down with the Cross. Singing lead soprano in a Junkman's choir is a nice irony there of Waits. It's quite poetic in a song full of quite brutish and short imagery, if you will. Obviously, that line itself, "Does life seem nasty, brutish and short," is Thomas Hobbes. Hobbes was someone who would go on to write Utopia and stuff like that, and basically do kind of like very well-known kind of books about government theory and stuff like that. And Thomas Hobbes would acknowledge that, you know, life is war of every man against man, make life solitary, poor, nasty, brutish and short. So Tom again starting with some great references, probably Kathleen on the end of that quote, to be fair with you, but you know, the seas are stormy, you can't find a port. Tom knows how to deliver these sort of songs, Sam. It's just, there's a guitar working as well in between it. You don't kind of hear it at first, but it leads a lot of the melody in the verses. It's the drums are very banging, aren't they? They're very 80s Bon Jovi Stadium Wembley kind of like big drums. It's triumphant.
And I think, to put it simply, the power of this song does come from the fact that it does follow "Take It With Me," which was a very self-involved song, and this song just seems so selfless and charitable.
Congregation,
really.
yeah.
And you know, he just doesn't want you to go and do something stupid, and he does it through an awesome screaming Waits howl, and it's a great way to end the album.
It is an incredible end, like absolute fireworks display of an ending, isn't it? The album just third and fourth tracks aside, for me, just is just this propulsive thing, and it just, wow. After that sort of religious suite, it just explodes towards the end.
And that was Mule Variations.
Yeah, it's.
That's been tiring. That's been physically exhausting to talk about this for so long.
Like, you know, but we'll cap us as we always do, Sam. First of all, your worst song.
My worst song. I was talking to this with Danny, and it's gonna have to be. It's not, folks. You can't do a worst song for Mule Variation. It's gonna be the one that we like the least. Mm-hmm. And I'm probably gonna go with Black Market Baby.
Wow. Whoa.
Yeah, I just don't like it that much compared to everything else on the album. It's a 6 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
It's just a bit plodding and a bit too self-dirty, you know. It's just a bit caught.
What?
It's just a bit caught up in its own mire, and it
meretricious.
It could be a little more fun.
Fair enough. Yeah, plodding could be a little more fun. I will volley your accusations at Hold On. Not a fan of Hold On, but I think I made my feelings clear. Sam, your best song?
This was very difficult. And I know we try and second guess each other as well, but I was going to go with Eyeball Kid, but I'm going to play it safe. I'm going to go with Big in Japan.
Wow. Okay.
Big in Japan's a fucking fantastic song, and it's like, you know, when you're about, like, obviously I've only started playing guitar quite recently, but you've been playing for a while. But I had a phase when I was about 16 where I did a lot of air guitar to no one in the bathroom.
Why not?
Like, you know the toothbrush is the mic, and mostly it was Beatles stuff because they all have guitars and stuff like that. But when I was like, oh wow, there's a Tom Waits like guitar song that's really cool, and I like it, and this one's always stuck with me, and yeah, it's just a classic song of my life, and it takes me back to a happy time before I had to do this podcast.
I would yeah, I mean, Big in Japan's obviously an immaculate song. It's hard really because there's quite a few heavier songs that I like on this track album. There's quite a lot of softer songs as well, so I don't want to seem like I'm forsaking one and the other, but I will say Cold Water the song is one of my all-time favourites. I think the rhythm and delivery is irresistible. I think the guitar playing is exquisite. I love the solo. I love the ideas of the song. It just hits you with these very concrete, aggressive images, and it's one of Tom's best dalliances with the past. You know, he's really pulling it off here. It's terrific. I just marvel at that song, Sam. It's one of my favourites.
So yeah, Mule Variations.
That's Mule Variations, one of the greatest.
And we go on now to a little segment that I've kind of took over.
Well,
maybe, I don't know.
Whatever.
You know, you're a busy guy. You've just got a new job, which actually you've just started now technically. Wow. So I think I will wrap this up. This week we were going to watch Bearskin, but we physically couldn't find it on the internet. So we might. Was it like 17 quid for the DVD or something?
Yeah, there's
ridiculous?
a problem. There's quite a few Waits films that we've marked out on his IMDb to do in future episodes. This is Real Gone, by the way, the segment at the end of each show. Go back and watch them. Where we review, or Sam predominantly reviews, Tom Waits' movies that he's been in, roles that he's played, be it small or very small, because they pretty much are by that jurisdiction, really. There's a few where he's a bit more than this. But yeah, so we reviewed them since the 4th episode. So, you know, we've done about 10, 11 reviews now of Waits' films. But no, this is, you know, some of them are just too hard to find. So we've had to kind of scrape the bottom of the barrel before we wanted to, even though arguably we already have with A Play in the Fields of the Lord. Check out Hector Babenco, what up? Twixt as well, wasn't a very good one, was it? But today we're doing Mystery Men, Sam.
You know, I'm a doctor. I do laser hair removal, I do acupuncture, I do aromatherapy, that type of thing. Would you like something sweet? Go ahead. Take one. What do you say we go back to your place and talk?
My roommate's there.
Bonus.
You're a rascal.
Mystery Men was a pleasant surprise for me. I love to be proved wrong. The cover for this, the one on the Rotten Tomatoes, makes him look very, very tacky and awful. Ben Stiller on the cover, who plays Mr. Furious, he's actually wearing like some Bone Machine type goggles. It's really odd. He does look like the exact cover of Bone Machine. But yeah, Mystery Men is kind of like the 90s Deadpool.
Okay.
Deadpool's just come out recently and has done very well. It's a piss take of the superhero genre, but it's a piss take of the superhero genre before we got things, before X-Men, the film that kind of defined the modern superhero movie. So, you know, we've had things like Tim Burton's Batman, etc., etc. And Tim Burton's an interesting name to bring up in this situation because the original director, the name that's used seems to be a bit of an Alan Smithy. Do you know, Alan Smithy is just the name of any sort of director who's lost sort of creative control of the project and he wants to sort of just detach his name. This apparently is directed by some commercial master, like he did a lot of adverts, called Kinka Usher, who has about as much information written about him as accurate Tom Waits stories. Right. Like he just seems to fade into the mist. And this film kind of just follows a trio of really naff superheroes with very lame powers. And Kinka Usher, apparently, according to Tom Waits, was Tim Burton. And Tim Burton was so dissatisfied with the project that he kind of just took his name off it. And it would explain the small gap in Tim Burton's career. It's a bit of a misnomer, this little story, because apparently Barney Hoskins misquoted Waits here and sort of spun this yarn. But other sources have said it was Burton as well. Like, Burton wasn't doing anything this year. And, you know, like, yes, it's got a lot of stars in it, but it only made 33 million out of 68 million for its budget. So it was a big flop. But you've got a fantastic cast and I'm not going to lie, this film succeeds because of its characters and the actors who play them. You've got Ben Stiller, Jeffrey Rush, Hank Azaria, who I've never really liked in film before, but he plays like the Blue Raj, a guy who like throws forks at people. You've got my man William H. Macy, who plays the Shoveler, who hits people with shovels. It's just great. Like, it's the lamest power ever. And then you've got like a guy who could only be invisible when people aren't looking.
Right.
You've got a guy who farts at people. Ben Stiller's like, his joke is that he's playing his character from Friends, like that, like angry Ben Stiller, but like he never actually like attacks anyone. You've got Greg Kinnear as Captain Amazing. Then you've got like Eddie Izzard randomly popping up as like this like disco villain. And then of course we have Tom Waits, who plays Dr. Heller, who makes sort of non-lethal weapons. So like he's got like the blame thrower things like that. And this film is a very fun romp. Look, when you look at the cinematography, it looks like a fucking Tim Burton movie. You can't deny it. It's got those weird close-ups, the angles. Everything's bright and colourful. Everything's got this sort of I'm not taking this too seriously kind of tinge to it. And the story itself's kind of, it's funny enough. Like the idea is Captain Amazing, played by Greg Kinnear, releases one of his old villains from prison because he's actually defeated all of the villains, and he needs a publicity stunt. And then he gets killed, and it's up to our motley crew, as it were, to win the day. But there are lots of funny jokes. Like, it made me laugh, which is very rare for a film from the 90s, especially one with Ben Stiller. There's this fantastic moment that really caught me off guard when the shoveler, he has his shovel knocked out of his hand, and someone goes to stab him with a knife, and then he pulls out a trowel to block it. It's really funny. And then you've got this girl who's got like a bowl. It's like there's this one character who comes to like the superhero auditions, and she's like a bowler, and that's her thing. And like there's a skull inside the bowling ball, and then later in the movie it's revealed that her father's skull is in the bowling ball, and she talks to it. What? It's a really quirky movie, man. It's got bright colours, funny jokes. The action. The opening action scene's the worst bit in the film because it has to show how crap our heroes are. But
how's Waits?
Waits is typecast as fuck in this movie. He's in the first scene, hitting on old ladies.
Oh, that's where that's from.
Scene,
okay.
Yeah, that's online. That clip, and it's not in the movie, or at least the version that I saw. Like he's like this sort of like 50-year-old guy who hits on like 90-year-old women, and yeah, it's very funny. But could you think of a more Waitsian character than a weird tinker inventor who makes non-lethal weapons for superheroes, and he lives in an abandoned amusement park in the desert full of chickens roaming around everywhere. It's it's fun to see him do it, and like at the end, like he's just watching TV and he's like, that's my team, and he does like the Waits laugh, but he's phoning it in. He knows he's a good actor, and he's just in this quirky little movie that he's not really in that much. He's in it more than like Twixt for example, where he's just in the first 3 minutes of opening dialogue. But yeah, like the thing I liked about Mystery Men is that it didn't take itself too seriously without going into sort of 60s Batman territory. Like it still gives the audience a fun experience. The characters are all the characters, right? They've all got setups and payoffs, very, very basic ones, and they've all got these nice little outside relationships, like either like one's living with their mum, one's trying to get a waitress to be his girlfriend, another one, William H. Macy, has a wife, and it all comes together just to have a very nice, satisfying ending. And it does the first example of something that happens loads in superhero films now, where they have to justify the lame name of the movie. Like in the recent Fantastic Four film, was like, this is fantastic, and he goes, say that again, and it cuts to black, and then he goes like, a woman on the news says, we will never know who these mystery men are, and then like one of them goes, hey, that's a good name. That's us, the superhero squad. And it just cuts to black. Like he totally got the wrong name out of it. But yeah, if you've seen Edward Scissorhands, you've seen this movie's direction and art design and set design and costume. Ben Stiller's not annoying in it. William H. Macy's great in it. Hank Azaria's a good actor in it, actually. He does like a British accent, which is pretty damn good. But obviously, most people will know him as, is he the voice of Homer or is he the voice of Moe? I think he's the voice of Mo Sislak,
the voice
isn't he?
of Mo, yeah.
Mo, Apu, Chief Wiggum.
He does Apu. Yeah, he does a lot of the big ones. Yeah.
So yeah, he's just very, very good at voices, and yeah, the movie's just very satisfying. It's a nice little quirky little 90s gem. I understand it's got quite the cult following. And it's weird to watch a superhero movie that's not setting up 9 sequels. Like, there is not a scene in this where Wonder Woman goes on YouTube, as you very accurately put, and just watches clips of different superhero movies that are coming out. Fuck me, that was a bad scene.
That was a bad scene.
That was our brief review of Man of Steel 2, as it should have been called. Hopefully Tom Waits comes into the Marvel universe at some point
as like a Doctor Strange adversary.
No, you know what? That is our audience's homework. Which character, whether DC or Marvel, could Tom Waits play?
I like that.
That could be an interesting one. But so Mystery Men, the arbitrary number 7.5.
Well, yeah,
you know,
I think
it's good. It's good.
Eventually, as we near the end of the pod, in terms of the run, we'll compile. We'll do a little review of your reviews. You know, we'll look back on some of the movies and stuff. But I think that about wraps it up really. So I just want to say thank you as ever, man, for joining us. And it's been fantastic. And obviously, get in contact with us, TomWaitsPodcast@gmail.com, at TomWaitsPodcast on the Twitter, TomWaitsPodcast.wordpress.com on the blog. Just get in contact with us really on YouTube as well. But thank you so much for listening. I've been Tom, Sam.
I've been Sam.
And
that was
Mule Variations. We will see you very soon for Alice, which is going to be great as well. So speak soon, guys.
I enjoyed that.
Thank you, Dave.
I like the presentation. I found the song interesting. Obviously, there's a story there behind that song.
Well, there is a story. It was an investment opportunity idea that was presented to me by my father-in-law.
Really? Your father-in-law, he comes to you one day and he says, guess what, Tom? Here we go. Easy Street?
Well, no, actually, it's a candy. They're called Testaments, and they have little Bible inscriptions on them.
Each one has a Bible verse.
Yeah.
The Lord, whatever you do and your plans will succeed.
Yeah, and there's a cross on the...
right. So these are actually... So you must be... Are you in this? You got money in this?
Well, it's real small. It's not ready to break.
I don't know. I think you're really looking at something here.